All right.
Yeah, I started.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock, and so we'd like to call this Santa Clara City Council work meeting to order. Welcome everyone who's there tonight. I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We have present from the council, Councilman Jarrett Waite, Councilman Denny Drake, Councilwoman Krista Hinton, and Councilwoman Lena Mathis. I'm expecting Councilman Shakespeare to join us. He's been riding the river all day, so he'll probably be in his reindeer. I'd like to begin the meeting with a invitation for general citizen public comment. I haven't received any orange slips, but we do have a special guest council, and with your permission, I'd like Eric Dowdle to come on up to the podium. Eric came down today and met with council early this morning, talked about the puzzle and the program there, and I invited him to stick around for city council, introduce himself, and tell us what you found today.
We got Chris, Jim, Jarrett. I saw you earlier. Nice job, Dennis and Ben. Way to go not being here. This is a lot of fun. I was talking to the mayor a little bit about how a lot of people ask me to do these different cities from all over the world now. And about 15 years ago, I moved to Linden, Utah, and my neighbor, his name was Douglas, and he was from here. And he just kept on telling me, you got to do Santa Clara. You got to do Santa Clara. I'm like, and at that time I was doing London and Paris and New York and San Francisco. I'm like, you bet. After I do Firth, Idaho, I'm all over it. And so for years, he's just giving me a hard time. And with the America 250 coming up, and I talked to some of the council members here, how years ago they put out some information to all the cities and all the different communities throughout the country. Anybody who was involved with any civic duty or activity, hey, help us decide how to celebrate America's 250th birthday. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and it's kind of what we're doing with Santa Clara here. But I sent that idea in 2016, and in 2018 they went to take a look at all the ideas that were submitted, and we were the only idea submitted. So this painting that we're going to do for Santa Clara and for your town and is a part of a celebration just generally for your city, but it's going to work in conjunction with the America 250 as an event that'll garner some attention, but to help America get ready for its 250th birthday. The small towns really are the backbone of this country. I mean, this is where you get some of the best stories. To come full circle with everything, my neighbor that I told you about, Douglas, who wanted me to do Santa Clara, I was downstairs in the museum and I noticed his name everywhere. And while I was in your museum, I got a phone call that Douglas had just had a stroke and that he was being rushed off to the hospital. Now he's okay, but I thought, oh my goodness, I better get this done before he's gone. His last name is Tobler. And that's obviously, as I'm looking through the museum, I'm like, he made it sound like he was just some riffraff from Santa Clara. But obviously his family has a lot to do with this town. It was fun to get a hold of his kids and let them know what we're doing on a day where they were afraid they were going to lose him. So I thought that was coincidental, and yet it means something. So that's what some of the activities today. What we're going to do for the city is going to be a lot of fun. When we unveil this painting and the puzzle wall that we're going to install somewhere in your city, this will be something that people will drive all over the country to come and see. And it's our job with the television show that we're doing on HBO Max to build up a reputation where people will want to see these. And I don't know if you've seen the whale walls that Weiland did in the 70s and 80s. It'll be something a lot like that. So I'm so excited. I got most of the research today, but I left just enough so that I'll have to come back when it's sunny. So, do any of you have any questions? We covered some of them this morning, but it was a limited amount.
You left.
Yes, you'll be in there fishing somewhere. Jim, how do you want to be in the painting? Come on. This is your chance. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I'm thinking the Merc building would be cool.
Okay.
Probably already in there.
You'll be hanging out
And some of
outside
the
that.
stuff on our historic Santa Clara Drive. I'm sure there'll be some nice things there. So
All right. Dennis, are you a Cubs fan or are you just wearing the hat?
Hey, I think whatever you do will be fine.
Wow. Now we need to be related if you're going to talk that way. Chris, how do you want to be in this piece? You don't? Those are the people we torture. You'll end up in there. You won't be what you want now. So, it will be fun. There'll be different people that you'll know, that'll be put in the piece. And, I guess we're going to be unveiling it during the Swiss Days celebration. Come down and I'll bring my contingency. We'll have some dancing and some different things coming with us. I don't know who, as far as celebrities of Santa Clara that we could bring down.
Do we have any celebrities? He asked me this morning.
I think Sean Bradley went in town.
You know what? Well, it'll be the city council then.
a
Okay.
retired newscaster that's in the community. And there's Sean Bradley.
It was
A beautiful city hall building. Make sure that's in there.
I think it's front and center. So, and if you don't have any questions, I'm thrilled to do this. I will be hopping on it. Well, the next comes our biggest. Save the world.
Just wanted to be prepared.
Yeah. Good job.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, we were talking about you the whole time, but we're changing the subject. So,
He wants a photo of
yeah, you're gonna be in the painting with that on, you know that. We don't want to draw too much attention to the flooding of Santa Clara, but you're gonna be in there with that on. If no one has any other questions, I'm gonna take off. As much as I would love to sit and listen to more about drought contingency plan discussion, power cost adjustment discussion, and other things.
This is good stuff.
Not that my family wants to see me anymore, but I'm gonna leave. I look forward to it. We'll be sending black and white photos. You'll look at them, our drawings as we go. And then sometime around July, the painting will be done and start the puzzle in August.
Awesome. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rick.
If you see some guy parking with his emergency lights on over the next 2 weeks, just drive.
Cut him a little slack.
I'm sure
Do that.
people were like, what is he doing? There's not, what are you doing? You're stopping traffic. Thank you.
Take care.
you.
Travel home safe, Eric.
All right.
Okay, on the working agenda, council. Item 3A1 is a tentative water rate and impact fee discussion.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to go over some current updates to the secondary water culinary impact fee update. What we decided to do after researching what other cities have done was they have combined the two, the culinary and the secondary, and they just call it a water impact fee. So that's the route that we've done. This latest update is the two combined. What that does is it makes your secondary improvements impact fee eligible since it's due to new growth. The growth rate we're using is still at 4%. Jim, can you go to page 30? Just wanted to run over the projects with you one more time and make sure that you're aware of those. Take us back up. Okay, there we go. We've got a little bit of work to do on our water rights. We'd like to do some shifting around from some underground secondary water and transfer it into shares that we can use. We've got the 12-inch line on Hamlin Parkway to Northtown to just complete that end of the system. We've got a 10 to 12-inch pressure reducing valve we've got to do on our city border where our main line comes out of Snow Canyon through Ivans. And then the 12-inch line from the wells in Snow Canyon to Snow Canyon tank if we opt to drill in Snow Canyon. So that may or may not be one that we end up needing to do. And then, of course, the new well. And then you get into the irrigation projects. We've got the Riesling, Crestview, Villa Bonita, Northtown, and Sycamore Drive lines that we would like to add to get rid of some of our largest culinary users and get them on secondary. Page 31, Jim. keep going.
On the project descriptions, would it be helpful to mark which ones are secondary water lines versus regular lines?
We can.
Because
Sure.
when I looked at that, I just thought we're just upgrading lines all over the city for regular water.
Okay.
Sorry, it's 31. That look right.
Go down just a little bit more.
Okay.
Maybe it's the next one. No, back up. Sorry. Anyway, I don't think we need to get to it, but it's proposing an impact fee of $2,875. Our existing impact fee is $1,973. It's an increase of $902. That's what that's proposing. One question that I have wanted to bring up to you is, would you be interested in doing a separate impact fee for townhouses? Since the impact is so much less.
And
Apartments too?
I'd suggest that you have an apartment project's been approved. It has significantly less impact on the system than even a townhouse.
Okay,
Both of them have less than a single family home. So
okay,
I think we ought to develop that while we're going through the process right now.
I agree.
That
Okay,
would help avoid legal challenge in the future.
okay.
The Conservancy already has something,
50%.
something like that. Okay, you might be able to look at. I mean, they've probably done all the research and
Mhm. Yeah, we'll definitely look at that. I'd like to get that put in there also. Can you go to page 36, Jim? I just want to talk water rates with you again really quick. Go back up to number 4 right there, Jim. Last time we all met, it seemed to be the consensus was structure number 4 was a water rate that you were fine with. That's keeping our existing water rate that we have now. It's just raising the base rate. We have capped everything at 36,000 now. We used to go up to 60, but with the new impact fee from the district, that's kind of what the other cities are doing also. If you can look at that handout I gave you, most of them are capped out at 36,000 also, to try to promote people to stay within that 36,000 gallons a month usage. On top of that, you know, they're just going to be paying more, and hopefully it'll promote conservation. Is that something that you would like to stay with, the 36,000?
I like the 36,000.
Okay, and one other question wanted to ask you while we're on water rates. Trying to meet the 0.59 acre feet. We're going to do it on new construction, but we'd like to get existing residents to that 0.9 acre feet. So in a monthly usage, that's 16,000 gallons. Would you like to create a surcharge, an extra charge for those residents that exceed that 16,000 gallons a month to try to promote more conservation? If you look at what it's going to take to get existing users that already have a yard, all the landscaping, to get to this 0.95 acre feet, it's going to be a battle. We know we can do it with new construction, but can we do it with existing? You know, it's a decision that we need to think hard about, because we've already got the county, their new surcharge also that was just implemented. You know, do we want to do one more? What's your thoughts there?
so this would be on the culinary use. So I'll speak on that. I guess, again, we need to conserve and if you look at water in general, obviously we've got grass at our home, and my concern is if we just mandate that across the board, hit the surcharge, what do we look like in 3 years? And we're already starting to see that. You're already starting to see yards just nothing. Now they're getting cars parked on them. And I mean, it's, if we move that direction, what do we end up with in 3, 4, 5 years without some type of, how do we go from turf to something that looks good, so we just don't look like a wasteland throughout the community. And that's my only concern is what drives it. I think we all agree we need to conserve and we're headed that direction. It frustrates me a little bit that we wait till the 11th and a half hour and don't have the storage and anything else when we should have it. And now everyone's going to pay the price. And at the end of the day, the only person that it hurts those that, that we're trying to protect with affordable housing and everything else. So I think as we look through it, we just got to kind of find the balance on what that is and how we implement it and how we do it all. I don't know the right answer on that. And it'd be interesting to see what that takes to get, you're saying 16,000 gallons a month is
That's to meet the 0.59 acre feet of annual usage.
so how does it work? That's just based on a meter,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah.
So how does that work? Again, let's use my house for an example. How does that work? Obviously you got 1 meter serving accessory dwellings. I mean, it's just based on meter size, not lot acreage, not lot size, not
Mm-mm.
so.
Do we have any idea what the average use is, say, for a home in the Heights that doesn't have any secondary water?
Probably about 140, 150,000 a year. So they don't need to do much to get to the $129,000 or 1,000 gallons, which is the 0.59 acre feet. We don't have a lot of homes that exceed 16,000 gallons a month, but it is excess water usage. You get some of these larger homes down the valley that aren't hooked to secondary. They're exceeding it by a lot. Some of those I'll see get up to 50, 60, 70,000 gallons a month. And for what?
Do the homes that are exceeding it have the ability to go on to secondary, the
No.
larger ones? No.
No. But part of the secondary expansion would give them the opportunity to, if we, choose to do services, say in the valley.
One thing the surcharge does is on those larger lots in the valley, it would give them the incentive to get onto the secondary system where they may not have it now. The water district surcharge, the 36,000 is, and you look at how many do we have that would even impact?
Yeah.
I mean, just a handful.
Yeah. And it's not, it sounds like a lot of dollar per thousand, but we've done the math on some of our bigger users and it's $200 a year.
So there's another issue too, and that is winter, summer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to see for 5 months of the year,
Mhm.
they're not going to use their capacity. So are we going to make it an annual rate so that we don't have to rebate those that use less if we're going to surcharge those that use more?
I mean, I think it would be nice to be able to do that. The tricky part is you wait till the year's over and then
Well,
send them a bill. Yeah.
Or do you do it based on prior usage? Like you take the first year and that would be the one that's just concluded before you change the rate.
Mhm.
And you look at their usage and do it as an annual usage and then work forward. But to me, I hate to penalize those that are being surcharged for their usage when they're using excess, but getting no benefit when they use less.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you shut it off early in the fall, turn it off
Right.
late in the spring,
And
that's the hard thing when you're saying how does the state read that then? So at 0.59, you get 129,000 gallons
Correct.
off that.
and they do it annually. They don't care about the month.
Yeah, so I guess that was going to be my question. I appreciate you asking that is, can we base it on that? Can we still hit the 0.59 as long as we're hitting?
Well, right now our average is 0.71
Yeah.
acre feet. So there's not a lot,
Or
we need to
more new
compensate.
development that comes online have
Mhm.
to meet the 0.59. They don't get the option.
Right.
And I'll
So
bet
it
most
should
way better.
drop that down.
Mhm.
I mean, Ivan's right now, theirs is probably 0.4, 0.35. all together. So they're already hitting it without any surcharge, without doing anything, just because of the differences in the development from up on the bench to down here.
Well, Cayenda, I mean,
With no
landscape Cayenda.
That's the question. What do we want to look like in 5 years? That's the.
We are working on and I think I've mentioned this to you before, on a special irrigation area in the valley that would cover the streetscape, that would cover the historic irrigated areas, the farms, there would be exceptions for, homes that are located in that, because we want to preserve the trees and the other things that are important to the city, to the community as a whole in that area. I told Black Desert I was going to try and limit them to like 0.3, and they pulled all their stuff off the agenda tonight. So they're thinking about that in order to compensate for that special irrigation area. So community wide, we can get to the 0.59 and stay in harmony with the rural water supply agreement, but still have the historic irrigated areas in the downtown to maintain the community. I mean, if we lost the sycamores and the streetscape and the vegetation in the downtown, this place would change, especially where they're all half-acre lots. They're all mini farm properties, we'll call them. So I think we're going to get there, because when they look at it, I think they're going to come back and be okay with what we're proposing, because they don't have a lot of outdoor irrigation use up there anyway. And so I think we'll be able to get there. We just need to develop the incentives to be able to bring the existing residents to reduce their water use down from that 0.71 down to that 0.59 over time. It could be a 10-year period that we did that. They want to do it 1% a year is kind of the goal. So we get it down to 0.7, 0.69. We just keep dribbling it down using some of the turf rebates. We don't want them to come in and turn it into Tucson. We don't want the heights to turn into Tucson. We want to be able to maintain some outdoor irrigation up there, but we want to do it smart. We want to keep the trees. We want to keep the cooling effect of the trees, but we don't want huge turf areas, especially ones that aren't being used.
The hard thing is when it's easy to do. This is the density battle right here. It's easy to hit this with density, but then you've got density. I look at Heritage Point over there. I mean, I'll bet they're under 0.3 pretty easy. There's not a plant in the backyard. It's all desert scape. There's not a single bit of grass, but
They're using 4,000 to 5,000 a month is all.
yeah, I was going to say, I'd walk that today. They got a pool, but outside of the pool, it's drip and pretty minimal at that. But it's high density. It's easy to do when it's high density because you're filling it in with homes. And so then you go, okay, you take a 10,000 square foot neighborhood, and what does that look like?
I asked Cody this the other day. We don't have very many that have been built under the new landscaping ordinance, right? 8 of them. Those be interesting to be able to monitor those 8 and see what they're using, and at the same time knowing what they've installed. Some of them probably haven't got rear yards in yet.
There's one that would be really interesting, and that's the one on Canyon View, where he has a huge lot acreage, and I see that he's landscaping strictly rocks and trees, and I'm there may be a little patch of grass.
Probably on one of the 8, right?
It's,
You would have met the new ordinance.
He's in the process of landscaping, but I'm sure he's going all xeriscape.
Yeah, and I mean, he's on a large lot. I mean, if
it's
you used it all, there's 11 acres, I think, and
Yeah,
so
11 acres.
but
And so that's the 8%, the 8% lawn area for the lot. And then total of 16% irrigated for the entire lot, which includes all your planters and drips and everything.
yeah, and I mean, his square footage of his house can't be very big, though. I mean,
I think it's right around 3,000.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not big for that lot.
I think this is a discussion that could go on and on and on. And in my mind, the creation of the surcharge has to be fairly distributed, but I don't see how we can do that without doing it on an annual basis. And I don't know how you're going to bill that on an annual basis unless the end of the year when they come in at 170,000 gallons and you hit them with a huge water bill,
Yeah,
you're going to,
Well, I think your idea to look at the previous year. I know Dominion has the option to pay the uniform cost every month. And I
Right.
think it's based on the previous usage. They just break it up in invoice. And then if you go over your bills going forward are gonna be higher. To where maybe we could look at doing it that same way. This is something
budget billing.
we could run some scenarios and bring to the water group and talk to it there. And then bring back to council. That may be a fairly simple thing for Sherry to build into the
Yeah,
billing system.
well, and it may be you could do it quarterly. So you actually hit,
It's gonna be hard. I think you're gonna have to do it annually because you've got such big swings
I know.
there's gonna have to be I hate to say a power cost adjustment factor type scenarios.
don't bring that up in water department.
Fridge that rolls back in. For the meeting. Just tighten your strap over them.
Strap.
It's something like that. Because it's kind of the same thing. You're gonna let them use it for a year. Calculate it out. If they go over, then they're gonna get hit with a surcharge and you're gonna average over 12 months and hit them with it again. And hopefully they adjust and it phases out, or if they don't adjust, it's gonna compound the next year.
Could you not do it? I agree. I think annually is the way to do it. And there is gonna be a shock to some, but we're talking about, do we implement it right now? Or gradually get into it? My thought is, yeah, implement it. But have some flexibility as if there is sticker shock to certain people that aren't anticipated that. If we waited a year to do it, we wouldn't, you'd have it, maybe there's some flexibility to pull back a little bit. And again, to where, okay, yeah, it was $500. Now, we pull it back a little bit to where it can be, there's some flexibility to staff to be able to say, okay, we're gonna put this now knowing that it's gonna be 10 residences that are gonna get hit hard, that are, try to explain it to them, but also know that there's some flexibility. So it could move. You start it and then you start gradually working that way to where everyone becomes accustomed to it.
and I think we're going to find exceptions to almost every rule. I mean, I think a lot of us look at our billing, checking our gallonage, and as long as it looks good, fine. But there's occasions when you have a water leak you don't know about, and all of a sudden the gallonage
Yeah.
is way out of line. And because I caught it on a monthly basis, not on an annual basis, then repair and stuff isn't nearly as expensive as the water bill could be if I'm doing it.
Well, and doesn't the AMI meters give you some?
We're able to reach out to those residents. We actually have it set up on an alert. If somebody exceeds this usage in a day, Sherry gets an email alert and immediately reaches right out to them.
And you would do that even on an annual billing. That would be, to me, something.
We want to those leaks kill us.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's unaccounted for in the billing, and we want to nail them down on the first thing out of the box.
Yep. Plus, I think the council wants to go with the mobile app this year in the budget. I've got that in there. So I think that's going to help too, if people can look at their monthly or daily usage on an app on their phone.
Something we could look at, Ben, is not roll out the surcharge right now, but maybe do a pilot program with 25 volunteer homes that would include some higher users, including all the city council.
We'll volunteer for surcharges.
Well, you had the life jacket on.
Pilot it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, if we had this surcharge, this is what you would get hit with.
Okay, I could do that.
Actually, a really good idea.
Run it for a year with a pilot and kind of work out some of the bugs. Expose it to certain people that you can get feedback from, and then bring it back
Okay.
into the fee structure. Because then you've got 25 people that have lived with it for a year that can
Well,
report on it.
and I think if you were going to roll something out in a year, so I think communication is the key. They know it's coming, but I think we also let them know here are some ways to cut
Mhm.
your risk for that charge. Under this, I mean, on the 0.59, is a typical home going to be able to have turf, or are we saying there's no turf available under that?
Oh, they'd be able to have turf, just not the entire lot like a lot of them do now.
Okay, so we're not necessarily saying you have to be Tucson.
We don't
We're
want
just
to cut
saying,
out all turf.
okay, you
just to
can
get 'em down to
under the limit
0.59.
with your,
Yeah.
or your yard turf.
Mhm.
Well, and if you really wanted to make a change quickly, you could give incentives to those that go under by usage and
Reduce their usage.
decreases their usage. But you'd have to make sure that you're maintaining your base rate so we don't get
Mhm.
upside down with bonds and stuff like that.
Yep.
And with the future, but I mean, I'd be right honest with you. There's two patches of grass in my front yard I'm gonna get rid of, you know? And if I got an incentive, it'd be quicker than later. But those are I would think that incentive would also move people forward quicker than penalty.
Well, the conservative district has ran out of money, but it sounds like they just got funding for more turf, right?
You know, they got
Yeah.
Legislature.
5 million more.
Yeah.
And I want to piggyback on that because I'm already seeing like a change. Like I have neighbors that are taking out their front yards. My in-laws just did down the street. We're considering it for us.
Mhm.
So I don't really want to put on a surcharge right now. I think we're in kind of a shift. So a pilot program I'd be totally fine with. But I think we're going to get there. I think just so many people are worried about the drought and they just realize my kids will not be able to live here unless I
Mhm.
fix what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I think a shift is already occurring.
What about instead of a pilot program, you just implement the program, but you delay it for 2 years? And instead you send out notices that, hey, had this been implemented, you would have been assessed $200 in beginning 2025. This will, so you every year you're sending out a notice that, hey, this year you used, under the program that will be implemented at this time. And maybe it's the same thing. Maybe it's still a pilot program, but
Think about
It
the
goes-
pilot, you get people into it. And if there was a way that we could have a say in who got that water district money, those could be your pilot people.
Mhm.
So if you're willing to do this, here's some incentive, or here's priority incentive to get you to do it. I like having a group of people that's lived it that could come to the meeting and report on it. Instead of just us against whoever comes, there's a group in there that did it. And we can ask them how it was. What did you have to do to your house to avoid it? And what's the changes that have happened, and are you happy with it?
Okay. I think it's a good idea.
And then run it for a year and see what the actual savings is, see what maybe the cost would have been. We're gonna have some people that are not even gonna look at it, just like today, they're just gonna pay the bill.
Yep.
Cause they're gonna have to really be super excessive for them to even notice it.
And I don't know that $1 per thousand is enough to do
I
that.
don't think it is. You could
Oh.
you could be using 36,000 gallons right now and double it and pay $36.
Mhm.
They're not gonna even see that. So.
now with the PCA out there right now, you're just focused on that. So.
So if they don't see it, that is even accomplishing what we want. If they don't even notice.
I mean, ideally, they see the advantage for them to do it. And there's enough incentive to do what Jarrett's saying, to keep people playing. Because I think you're right. You're seeing this maybe top 10% of the communities looking at it. And 75% of it don't know what's going on and won't until something pops them. A bill, something. The water cop going around and telling me you're watering outside of your time of day, we're gonna have to write you a ticket.
That July bill, when it's 105 plus every day, that's when they're gonna notice it.
So. Anyway, let's talk, that's something I think we can talk about in the work group.
Okay.
Come up with something.
So I just want to jump
Is-
back. Go
Would
ahead.
there be any reason to notice people now, telling them we're looking at being cut back to 0.59? We're asking you to voluntarily do that. And if not, we have to implement some restrictions, dollar amounts. And I mean, like Jarrett's talking, we're talking about people voluntarily doing it now. And if we got what we needed, we may not have to create an ordinance.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just don't know that whether, but we could do it for a year that way and then implement the ordinance a year from now after trying to incentivize and get people to look at what their usage is and change their usage.
Yeah, I think we could put something on the utility bill or a separate mailer in the utility bill that explains this to them.
Could be a guest speaker in the mayor's message, right? From Denny.
Always welcome. It could be a town hall meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
We still have, there's still some issues out there. If you single meter an apartment complex or a townhome project, then you've got some issues. And I don't know if we've got any like that where we've got 1 meter to
Swiss Village.
townhome.
Swiss Village is a master meter.
And
The apartments will be a master meter.
The apartments will be a master. That's why the impact fee needs to be written
Mhm.
differently on the apartments. And then they've got separate outdoor meters. And when the surcharge kicks in on a common meter, we'll have to figure out.
Mhm.
Is that common?
well,
meter
you could
should
take
serve-
your 39 units, say that are part of that master and divide it into the water usage and
Mhm.
just equally say, this is the amount.
Well, but just understand that the impact fee, they're not gonna get 0.59 when they pay their
I
impact.
know the
They're
impact.
gonna get hit with like a 0.2.
Yeah, because their outdoor use is on a separate
And
meter.
yeah, and then you'll have to combine it with that smaller thing to make sure they're still hitting it within their impact fee allotment. So
Mhm.
there's some calcs to be done. And we're just gonna have to do them.
Well, and most our new developments are going to have secondary for those common meters anyway, and outdoor landscape.
Will Regal have secondary?
What's that?
Will Regal have secondary?
Oh, yeah.
It will.
Regal, Solus,
Okay.
Desert's Edge, all those.
Dustin, have we ran figures on what we have planned coming up, the numbers of doors, residences coming up? And if they hit a certain, like, let's say everything of the multifamily coming up does hit the 0.2 or 0.25, what that does from where we are right now?
Yes, I don't have that with me though, but I have ran that number.
Does that get us there? Or is it still off a little bit?
Citywide?
Yeah, citywide.
No, we're still off.
Yeah.
I just want to jump back to the water rate structure number 4 and make sure that we're all still on board with that now that we've changed it to the 36,000. So it's the same water rate, just higher base rate. In the master plan update, says we need a rate increase of $10.16 to fund projects with the average bill of $51.61. So that covers that. I think you were all on board with number 4 last discussion. Just wanted to make sure before we put that in the study.
In your impact fee study, you do have the upsize from Snow Canyon into that, which is a pretty big number in that.
$4 million. That's why I'm trying to drill a well in Santa Clara.
Yeah. So my question is, we're approving a $900 increase plus a $15 a month base charge, and 4 million of it is in there that if we get a well here in Santa Clara, you're not going to need, because both those are in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, and
one,
line.
I guess you'd have the well in Snow Canyon, hoping you can get it in Santa Clara first.
Mhm.
So if we approve it and then you strike gold here
take it
in
out.
6 months. Does that get reduced in there?
We're gonna know soon. We're
Okay.
ready to move forward with this groundwater study now that our water rights have been verified. So we could immediately amend this and take it out once we know where we're gonna drill that well. But if we need it, we don't start collecting the impact fee for it.
Yeah.
We'd have to bond for it.
I think that would probably be my only ask is in any motion that we address that, because that's a big number in there. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully, I think we're all fingers crossed that you hit something here close and we don't need that, but
So we can amend it after that and take it out.
okay,
It's kind of our feeling.
okay.
Can you just explain in the chart, like, it says monthly base rate and then meter size and dollars per month?
Mhm.
The base rate is just based off your meter size, right?
Yes, it goes up with the larger meters
Okay,
because of the amount of water that they use.
okay.
So that'll show your average bill there per meter size. Everybody good with number 4? Okay, this is the tricky one. Jim, if you can go to 37. This is the irrigation rate. We talked last time and
37, I'm sorry.
37 on mine. I don't know why they're not lining up.
Yeah, I don't.
It's 41 in the PDF.
That's why they're always different.
Mhm.
Number.
So stop right there on number 1. okay.
Page
Right here?
37 is.
Yeah. So to cover the cost of the future projects, we need 2251 a month, average bill to be. Rate structure. Number 1. It's a little bit higher rate for residential, a little bit lower for commercial. What most of the other cities have done is about 50% reduction, 50 to 60% reduction over culinary rates, to give them the incentive to hook onto secondary. So it shows that rate there starting out in residential at 45 for the 3/4 to 1 inch meter. And then dropping down a little bit for the larger users. They're also similar. If you go to rate structure 2, Jim, the next one. This one's got the same water rate all the way through, not depending on your meter size. So it's giving those larger users the same water rate as the residential, which, we don't have a lot of large meters. Majority of this is going to be residential meters. Rate structure 3, Jim.
Dustin, can I ask a question? On our base rate, are we in that base rate? Are we planning any O&M costs into that base rate? Okay, so replacing lines and stuff is already in.
Both rates will cover your O&M.
Okay.
Rate structure 3 is a lower base rate, higher water rate. You can see there for 3/4 and 1 inch meter residentials, it jumps up to 75,000 for your first 5,000 gallons. But still, the average user, $29.88 a month.
As the line gets bigger, it's increasing.
And then number 4, Jim,
The meters.
really gets down into a low water rate for residential, then gradually climbs for the commercial meters, the larger ones. Like I said, they're also similar. I think any of them would work. The variance in monthly cost is not that much. And then, Jared, I know last time we met, you had a question that 2 inch culinary was costing about as much as 2 inch irrigation. So I had Sunrise do a study on that. Average usage on culinary 2 inch meter is about $400 a month. Or I'm sorry, on secondary. Average on culinary would be $1,141 a month. Just wanted to double check that so that you could know the difference between the two rates on culinary versus secondary.
Can you go back to 2, Jim? Just. So Dustin, as we're looking at this, on the impact fee we just approving, is there an impact fee on irrigation as well? Or does the single impact fee cover both?
It's called a water impact fee and it covers both.
Okay, so now you can combine, that's what you were sharing there, just so we're.
Yep, that's what all the other cities have gone to that have a secondary system.
Perfect.
I mean, I guess my take on this is the more attractive we can make it look to go to secondary, we should. And I think a lower per gallon is going to tempt people out of all the options, whatever. There's probably a balance there, but I think that's what would really be like, oh, I can only pay that compared to that.
Mhm.
I should definitely do that.
That's what I was feeling, maybe a little higher base rate, but a low water.
Mhm.
It's for the same reason that, I mean, if there's a bit broad difference, but you would be inclined to take it.
So I think rate structure 2 or 3 would fit that pretty well. Other than city owned, we only have 1 meter that's out of the 3/4 or 1 inch that is a Lava Ridge intermediate. So residential is really where we need to focus on this to give them the incentive to switch over.
Do you want to go to 3, Jim, real quick? I guess they're all.
Yeah, I'm thinking like two or 4.
Yeah, I was gonna say 3 has a high water cost. So yeah, 2 or 4, I think is the 2 there.
You want to go to 4?
Yeah.
I'm assuming 4 is kind of that in between. It's 25 cents for the first versus 20 on the other, but they're the same base rate.
Except for the 2-inch. Goes to 75. At the base rate.
Who's got a 2-inch meter? Does
Oh yeah, you're right.
not a
I
lot.
don't think we have anybody on our system that's 2 inch. We have some city owned, but we have our own water rate for that.
It's a good rate. I tapped into it.
There's not
A lot cheaper.
I think the dialysis center was thinking 2-inch and they went to 1.5 inches.
1.5 inch, I heard. But that's their culinary.
That's culinary, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. But
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of a business that is gonna be a 2-inch meter and there's not.
Schools and churches.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And I can't really get the churches to go on yet. So
Would you get into any like master plan development where they put their irrigation? I mean, I'm trying to think of something large.
like what we're doing in Desert's Edge is not individual secondary meters. There'll be one common meter that does all the outdoor irrigation, which is why I'm trying to take that line down to Paradise Village, Arcadia, because they're the same way.
How big would that meter be?
1.5 inches.
1.5 inches, as
Uh-huh.
big as you're getting there.
Yeah.
So I guess just going with 2 maybe isn't the wisest since we may never even get anyone the 2, 3, or 4 inch. And so if the model's built off at least something being on there, then maybe we shouldn't choose that option, right?
Probably ought to get your 1.5 inch meter on the table.
I am going to have them at 1.5 inch meter. I've asked them to once, but it didn't happen. So we still have a few other corrections like that to make. The vote 2.
I think 2, even, I wouldn't even be opposed if the base rate was a little more but because their water rates are better in there as well. At least what I could tell. I think that's a better. structure.
I'm feeling 4 for what it's worth.
Are you?
Just because we don't have a really high base rate for the higher meter sizes, the larger meter sizes and that's that number. So this is probably more realistic to what'll actually get used.
Yeah.
I just worry on number two that you're hoping to get some of that money, that $75 rate, but we may never get that. So even 1 or 4 would probably be fine. 1 has a lower base rate. And it's a little bit higher on the per gallon than 4. So again, I think I would lean towards 4.
I can go with that. I'm fine. Like I said, I like the higher base rate and the lower cost per water. And we can always look at it as we go.
I'm ready to go.
A lot of water out there. I don't know why we're not out grabbing it right now.
Every 55-gallon drum.
Yeah.
Lane,
Choose store, my lord. I think it's good. I think we can flip a coin at those.
I'm good with 4 too.
what's that?
I'm good with 4.
4?
I'll go with 4.
Okay.
So do you need to add 1.5 inches in there though?
Yeah, we're going to.
Will that
Okay.
be just with the $20 base rate? The inch and a half? Or will it be a different one?
I'd just stay with the 20.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on this master plan update before I bring it back for approval?
Probably will be.
Maybe I'll bring it to a work meeting one more time.
It'll be interesting to see how it works out with the apartments, like how that is really going to look.
I'd say I'd bring it back.
I'll bring it back.
At least, I mean, you could come back to a council meeting as just a discussion item too.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Dustin. 3A2 drought contingency plan discussion.
Hey, the drought contingency plan is part of the regional water supply agreement amendment that we're about to do. They're asking us all to adopt this drought contingency plan. Myself, along with the other TAC members, have been working on this starting last spring, meeting every few months on this. I'll just give you a brief summary. To prepare for emergency drought conditions, the Washington County Water Conservancy District developed this drought contingency plan with funding from the United States Department of the Interior, Bureau of Reclamation. The plan was developed in partnership with the Regional Water Supply Agreement members to provide a collaborative system for prioritizing drinking water under circumstances of diminishing supply. Plan elements. The plan was developed using a working framework approved by the Bureau of Reclamation as a requirement of the funding agreement. This framework includes an overview of the steps involved as well as schedule for development and feedback on key elements. First being mitigation measures. The district and the members of its water service area have invested heavily in conservation measures such as a rebate and incentive programs to reduce water demand, successfully reducing per capita usage by more than 30% since the year 2000. Drought monitoring. The district developed a drought monitoring tool for identifying drought, quantifying the drought conditions, and assessing its severity. Drought stages. The 5 drought stages range from 0, normal conditions, to 4, extreme conditions, drought. I'll go through those later with you. Action plans. The action plans are tailored towards 3 response groups: residential, community, and water provider. Vulnerability assessment. The vulnerability assessment will identify areas of vulnerability in existing facility systems, capabilities, and water practice for the district and its customers. Next is communications and plans, maintenance, and update schedule. The task force will meet monthly to review technical information and recommendations to the Conservancy District, who will decide whether to announce a drought stage change. The district will coordinate with its municipal partners to provide information to the public via websites, social media, newsletters. As necessary, public outreach will extend to press announcements, advertising signage, and enhance collaboration. The district will evaluate and update the plan every 5 years. I'm going to run through the drought stages with you now. Like I said, there's 5 drought stages. Stage 0 is conserve. Stage 0 occurs when the water supply necessary to meet current demands is also adequate to maintain or increase stored supplies. Stage 1, caution. Stage 1 describes meteorological conditions when water demands tapped into stored supplies faster than they can be replenished. When stored supplies are dropping, additional actions will need to be taken in order to slow that drawdown and bring the demand back in line with the sustainable supplies. Stage 2, concern. When the water supply has already been diminished, reservoir levels are low, and conditions have failed to replenish the supply. In this stage, responses become more intrusive and aggressive to reduce demands even further and hold on to what water is available in case the dry conditions continue to persist. Stage 3, alarm. Stage 3 will be used when the available water supply has deteriorated significantly and is approaching critical levels. At this stage, water will begin to be rationed and redistributed to maintain life-sustaining uses. Stage 4, crisis. Stage 4 is the most extreme stage of the drought contingency plan and will come into effect when storage supplies have been depleted and the region will be required to limit use to only what becomes available in each season. All non-essential water use will be terminated at this point. When in this stage, even storage infrastructure will not be able to capture and store what precipitation may fall. All efforts to reduce water consumption demand prior to reaching this stage should be aggressively employed. Because of existing reservoirs and infrastructure, a period of extreme drought is defined and here has yet to occur with the county's recent history. Can you go to 54, Jim? I think it's towards the end. Keep going. There we go, right there. Here you've got your 5 stages, 0 through 4. Scroll up just a hair bit more. You can see the 3 categories: residential, municipality, and district. This is what's required at each drought stage by your residents, by our city, and by the Conservancy District. For instance, in residential, stage 1, reduce irrigation frequency and duration. Stage 2, follow mandatory irrigation schedule. Irrigate only trees and shrubs recommended. Stage 3, grass irrigation prohibited. Irrigation of trees and shrubs allowed by drip irrigation or by hand watering. Stage 4, no outdoor water use. These are just some of the examples. There's several things that are listed. I'm just hitting the key ones. Stage 1 in municipality, reduce irrigation by 20%. We're also calling public facilities, schools, and churches. Stage 2, reduce irrigation by 40%. Restrict construction water use. That's kind of a big one that we've had a lot of discussion about. You're practically forcing a moratorium at that point. Raise tiered water rates. That's a discussion I want to have with you. Some of the other cities are going to implement drought water rate because of we're asking people to cut water by 20 to 40%. There goes our revenue to cover costs. So as you go into that drought stage, whether it be we implement that at 2 or at 3, I think it's probably something wise to look into. We don't have to make this decision now, but it's something we're going to want to look at in the future.
Why not just set funds aside? Just instead of, because that's the first thing I looked at going, why are we raising the tiered rate in stage 2? And that's, you answered the question, but why not take a base rate of 20 or 22 and set $2 aside for a for, you know, have that, but then I guess each municipality, I don't know.
Yeah.
Listen, as far as the municipality and the district and the residential, is this assuming that all water? That means culinary and secondary are included, or is this just the culinary source?
Oh, it's both conclude.
That's, I mean, I see that down the road, this could be a major disaster for communities that are relying on recreation for their, like Goobler Park,
Mhm.
those areas, where with the secondary system, I mean, whether wet water, are we just saying wet water, you're not going to use wet water?
Mhm.
That's interesting.
But understand that this is only in place if we're in an extreme drought condition.
Well, I understand when you go to 4, but
Or is catastrophic.
Who determines? I mean, who, like, in this document, who's the final say in this that moves us from
Gonna be,
stage 2 to stage
we
3?
haven't got them yet, but it's gonna be based on water levels in Sand Hollow Reservoir.
Well, the way it works is the TAC committee, myself and the other directors of the cities will make recommendations that will go to the mayors to make that decision of whether we go to stage 1 to stage 2. We just make that recommendation off the information that we've gathered from reservoir levels, precipitation, soil moisture. Many things play into effect to make the decision to go from drought stage 1 to 2 to 3.
Basically, the ability to deliver the water.
Mhm.
So if your well levels dive, if your reservoir levels dive, if your groundwater, your soil moisture is low, it's all of that is going to kick you into those different stages. Right now, we're at stage 1.
What? And how do I word this without? How do we prevent that? How do we, because I'm going to tell you right now, California in 2 years' time, maybe less, will be in a drought stage again. Mark my word.
Sure.
And it's policy based, not the fact that the water's not there. The water's there. They've got foot plus of water to cover the entire state right now, and 99% of it's going to the ocean. Now it'll fill everything they've got. But how do we, as Utah, not, I mean, how are we going to catch? So yeah, it's not going to fill Lake Powell. It's not going to fill Lake Mead, but Lake Powell and Lake Mead are going to catch a lot of water this year, which is exactly why they're there. So how do we?
Those 20 some odd projects that the water district has on the table right now, the construction of graveyard, construction of dry wash, completing Toker,
Warner Valley.
getting started on Warner Valley, getting the reuse system, the regional pipeline hooked up so that water can come into, I mean, that whole, the wells in the Sullivan Field, that whole list. You make sure that you're working on that list to answer that question. Because if you don't stop, just because we've got, 10 feet of snow on Cedar Mountain right now, nobody's stopping.
Yeah.
That list of projects is getting pursued, and the pressure's staying on for Lake Powell Pipeline. Because in 2040, those projects are going to be extinguished, and we're going to need something else, and that's the something else right now. So you just keep that focus going.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I think it's important that we, like I said, get, and it really comes down to storage. I mean, ultimately, the West survival, the interior West anyway, is going to be strictly on storage, because you have years like this.
Yeah.
You could have 2 or 3. I mean, I've got, looking through the data, 80 to 84. That's exactly what it was. It was 3 years in a row, very similar to this. And if you have the storage,
Now, what you need to do is run for a greater office so that you can tell the Army Corps of Engineers you want control.
well, and that's my point right there
I know.
is I think from everybody, again, staff here, I could confidently say, look, if we needed a reservoir and we could do that, it'd be done. I mean, I'm confident at our level. You're totally right.
I mean, that's the problem in California is they have no control over how much water they're able to maintain in their rivers and stuff
Yeah.
because I mean, they shut down 150,000 acres of orchard because they needed the water in the ditches for a fish, a species of
Yeah.
fish. And therefore that went by the wayside. But I think what we're dealing with is strictly drought, where it's just a major a problem that can't be corrected by artificial means. Somehow we've got to do what we can to maintain a lifestyle. And I think this is, to me, something that we need to work on.
Yeah, my purpose of the question was more, is the person that's telling me that we're now in stage 4 also the person telling us that we can't build Warner Valley? And I just hope they're not the same. That's that we maintain control of our future by what we can develop on our rights and everything else. And then we go push again, there's the water's there. You just got to be able to store it and provide for it. And so that's all I want is, like I said, that it's a local.
It's low on a local level.
Yeah.
This is all local.
So the recommendation is made to the mayors and the mayors have a majority vote, or how does
They
that
call
work
it
if you
the-
don't agree?
Administrative Advisory Council. And to date, it really hasn't had any kind of a authority. They've met quarterly. There's representatives. The AAC is every city, the 7 cities that are involved in the RWSA are represented. 1 vote per city. So Tokerville, Hurricane, Hurricane, Washington, St. George, Santa Clara, Ivans are the 7. The ACC meets quarterly or on demand. These types of things would probably be a special meeting, and there's rules and policies being written for the ACC to determine how the vote is taken, if it's a majority vote or if it's a unanimous vote. They've never voted on anything to date. So that's going to be formed as part of the amendment, formalized. There'll be a chair and a vice chair elected. Voting rules will be established so that when questions like this come to them, they can make a decision. And the consequences also, if you've got a city that is not performing, like we've still got cities that haven't adopted the landscape conservation ordinance, nor the water district recommended surcharge. You've still got cities that haven't adopted those, or they have modified them to where they're really out of step with the other cities. There's some consequences going to be developed on what happens when this group votes and says, look, one of those cities is, you're out of compliance. We're going to shut you off from regional water. And how does that happen? It's those discussions are having right now at the same time that we're looking. It's one of the things that's holding up the RWSA amendment is how that AAC works.
And that's why we have met as a group to create this so that it's countywide. Everybody has the same restrictions that Santa Clara is going to have.
Leeds and Virgin have petitioned to come into the RWSA. I don't know if the 7 are going to let them in. We'll see how that goes. And then there's separate provisions for the existing contracts. Like there's an existing water supply agreement with Virgin. They deliver a block of water to Virgin. And how, if we go into this, what happens to that agreement? It's got to dial back along with the RWSA cities. Those contracts have to be probably the low hanging fruit on the dial back. So all that's in discussion right now. What they've told me is it probably be primarily based on water levels. When we see Sand Hollow drop to certain levels, you'll kick it from a stage 0 to a 1 or 1 to a 2, and you won't go from a 0 to a 4. You'll kind of work your way into it as that level drops and the other drought things that are impacting the area measures kind of come together. And you'll just step your way into it. And everybody recognizes that, you know, stage 4 is a catastrophic thing. That is, there is, you have shut down basically the economy. And you're just into life support on stage 4. There's only one, and it's probably in the main book. There's been one period in the years of record. Because these have to go in for so many months before you kick it. So you've got to meet all the requirements for like a couple of months in a row before it kicks into play. It triggers. It's only been triggered once. And
20 or 30 years, I think it
more than
was.
that. I was thinking it was like 60, 50
Was it?
or 60 years of data. There's only been one period of time that would have kicked it in.
Or
Well, to 3, I think that was to 3.
3.
It's never been in 4. It would have kicked it into 3 for like 1 3-month window over the last 50 years. So hoping that trend continues.
So who monitors this?
Water
Wait.
district.
Yeah.
So how do they know, like on stage 2, where it says to reduce indoor water use by 10%,
That'll be
or
us. We report to them.
Mhm.
But we monitor our usage and then report it to the district.
But is
Those
that
records,
like,
those records go in right now. They can look at what we send them monthly and see if those things are happening.
but is that where like we're asking the police to like pull over and write a ticket if somebody's running their water? Or-
At some point it will.
Yeah, I think if you get to stage 2 beyond, water cops are going to be enforced.
Okay.
And this is going to turn into a big HOA instead of a big city, and you're going to have people policing themselves.
Mhm.
It's not, they're not fun steps to implement, but they're there for a reason. I mean, nobody's going to implement this thing just for giggles to watch how it works. It's because we're in dire straits water-wise.
I had a question on the stage 2, when on the farthest right, it says petition state for limitation on aquifer drawdown. Is that saying like we'd ask the state for a bigger haircut on water shares, or what is that exactly?
They would ask, the state regulates our wells,
Okay.
how much water you can pull out of the aquifer. You would ask the state, the water district would petition the state to let us draw more water out of the aquifer.
Oh, okay.
Like particularly the aquifer under Sand Hollow Ridge.
Okay.
You see the 3 columns. Some of it is up to the individual to do. Some of it is up to the city to do. So we're that middle column, and then the district has their tasks that are happening at the same time.
The big one I wanted to just touch on is stage 3 under municipality. Institute a temporary building moratorium. There's been a lot of talk about that. It's, probably gonna have to be an ordinance. So it's gonna take some time to implement. And it's a pretty serious matter, so there'll be a lot of discussion about that if that's when we decide to go to stage 3.
So when we move in the stages, we do everything on here, or they can determine a few of the things we can do, we will do.
All of them,
All of them?
try to. And then in stage 4 municipalities eliminate all outdoor irrigation. Aggressive enforcement, including water shutoffs. If people aren't abiding by their cutback. That's pretty much the gist of it. Any comments or questions?
What they've done,
Comprehensive.
some areas in
Yeah.
California, they have a disc that they put inside your water meter. And so instead of having a 3/4 inch meter, you might have a 1/8 inch meter. And it may take 10 minutes to fill a toilet. If you're an abuser, that's how they deal with the abusers. They put those discs in and they can And it brings them to their milk pretty quick. They're abusing it.
So they're asking all councils to adopt this. I'll bring it back and make you aware of the minor changes that we're gonna make and
They haven't established the triggers yet, have they?
That's really what we need to see. I mean, because you better have your I's dotted and your T's crossed on this, because if you're not right, you're losing every legal challenge.
Mhm.
You get into some of this and it's not there for that exact same reason as
Everybody has to do it.
yeah.
You can't have one say no or one do it ahead of the other 7. Everybody does it in lockstep. So
But I think that's that would be the thing to know is just, what gets Sand Hollow down to that level?
what are those triggers? So you can kind of
what
monitor
is that? And it's not saying because Sand Hollow's pulled out of, they go back and forth between Quell and that, it's pulled out of the river there. So what's keeping it from at that level? And those are things I don't know. I mean, I hate to vote on something here, not understanding the complexities of, if the dam breaks at Sand Hollow, are we to stage 4 immediately? Are we putting a moratorium?
you might, that could be like if you lose quail right now,
Yeah.
the ability to provide water into the plant is significantly reduced. So it's different than when we lost quail in 89. Like, was the plant even running in 89? Wasn't.
Yeah.
When we lost quail in 89, there wasn't a treatment plant over there yet. So losing a dam is huge, could kick you catastrophic for a while till you had your resource balance back in place.
And those are things I just don't know what they're, again, we'd probably need a low level flyover of what that is to understand what gets us to that.
I've asked that question at the AAC. I know the TAC's probably working on that with the district,
No.
be able to bring forth to it. They want to start looking at these, so you guys are aware of them, so there's a plan. This is another one of those things that you're going after federal funds right now for reuse, for conservation. You need to have one of these in play. That's demonstrating that you have taken the efforts or are prepared to take the efforts to go to that level that you're worth funding. So that's one of the reasons why that's coming around. If you'd be able to fund that reuse pipeline in Warner, we're going to need to adopt this to get the money from the state to fund the project.
I really don't have any fear of adopting this at all, but I do have I don't quite understand why we're doing it with all wet water. Irrigation is, we don't treat it, we don't have to deal with it other than reuse. And it's, most of it comes from groundwater, so it's storm water that is filled in the reservoirs. We're not pumping it from wells. Anyway, but I understand when we're talking wet water, nobody cares whether it's reuse or culinary. When they see you watering the grass at the park, and they don't care that it's not coming out of their tap.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good project. I think for the long term, it's something that we need to do. And I don't know that we have any real choice in the matter as far as I'm concerned, but
How do they address agriculture?
the agriculture will be part of it,
Even if they own water rights.
even if you own water rights.
Well, even
Right.
a lot of the surface rights. Figure if you're going into stage 2, what's happening in the river?
Well, and what other things are happening? The state has passed a law that all irrigation companies now have to have meters on their irrigation systems by 2030. So there will no longer be flood irrigation unless it's often a meter. It will be sprinklered. You'll have your right to use so many gallonage. Up to this point, really, a lot of these big irrigation companies have really never had to meter. They've just used whatever they had in the pond, and whoever took it, got it. But by 2030, the state is going to require that be metered so that they can see that the right amount of water is being used. And so it is I don't know.
Oh, like last year. We're in stage one, the Santa Clara users only got 28% of their share of their rights. That's all they were delivered. So it almost happens automatically. Those
Yeah.
irrigation rights get dialed back by the condition, not necessarily by the plan.
How you fill your reservoir, and it. most of the
Reservoir's
reservoirs
down.
don't fill.
All those things are gonna kick in. Obviously, in a year like this, we're not gonna be in a stage two. Or beyond. I'd be curious to see if we jump from stage one back to stage zero. Given the water year you're having this year. But see,
Just real quickly to answer your question, Jim, can you go to page 42? This kind of explains how you trigger back into the different drought stages. And go up. Oh, back down, back down. Right there. So you've got your supply reservoir volume, they forecast the stream flow, then your demand, forecasted temperature, culinary production, population growth will trigger a drought. So the Conservancy District is going to model all the stream flow, all the reservoirs. And then on the other side of the demand side, what's our culinary production? Has it dropped? That could, trigger a stage to have to move in the drought.
It says that the equations are in Appendix B. Do we not have that yet? Just
Nope.
above that chart. Drought trigger components are calculated according to precise equations, which can be found in Appendix B, but I didn't see an appendix in the report.
Do we have the figure 5.1, 5.2?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.2 is the next one, right?
she's working on that, but she didn't have that when they presented it to the AAC yet. The exhibit with the equations from the triggers.
Yeah, I noticed
Barely
that's not in here.
Okay.
Sorry.
They're kind of gnarly.
But
Yeah.
equations are,
Yeah. They're pretty gnarly.
I can't wait to see them.
We're gonna make them into a puzzle.
Yeah.
Are all of the incentives that are listed in here currently being offered by the water district? Okay.
Other than the sod removal, because they ran out of money, but now they're. sounds like
Water
they're starting to
heater,
back
all
up
that.
again. The what?
I think it was the water heater was one of them. I didn't know they were offering that. Okay.
Well, it's the hot water recirculator.
Working
Right.
on that. They haven't offered that one yet, but they're getting there.
They're getting ready.
They've got, everybody has stuff to do on the list. We need to adopt it. They need to put those incentives in play. So everybody has work to do.
Okay.
I just installed my recirculation pump today.
What it cost you?
It would have been about $600.
That was all.
But you got the incentive?
No,
Oh.
we just did it based off our last meeting. He said I can get closer to what we really should be if I install that. So we did it. We were redoing our water heater at the same time, so it made sense to just get it done.
So you removed your water heater and then put that in place
No, it's after the water heater.
after the water heater.
So it just keeps the water running through your pipes at whatever interval you want.
Did you have to run new piping inside the house?
Mhm. No, if you're retrofitting an older home, you have to have a crossover at your farthest faucet to make that loop so it can go back and keep it going. So that particular faucet will never be all the way cold.
Yeah, it runs hot water back through your cold water.
Yeah.
So you don't have to put in.
My
Well,
home,
then you gotta turn on the cold water and let it run for a while before it gets cold. I'm just saying.
yeah. My house,
That's how it works.
yeah, my house had a
Like you were
dedicated
over here.
recirculation line, so I didn't have to do that. But yeah.
It does the opposite of what you're trying to do.
But the actual pump is only like $200. My brother-in-law did it himself. And it's like $200.
Yeah, you're probably $400 in labor and for a plumbing service company to do it.
Yeah.
So.
right.
Okay,
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
more good news. This is just a good news meeting. Glad we had the puzzle guy done.
He got out of here quick. He was done.
I'm glad we didn't make him wait till last. He'd have been totally depressed. What do you mean taking that tie off?
Got a clip on.
You're here to talk about PCA and you took your tie off?
The water heater is what it does. It just circulates.
Good evening, Mayor and council.
Well, it keeps it. on.
I've talked to some of you about this PCA. We're getting a number of, well, a lot of phone calls. I'm guessing 30 or 40 a day, kind of what we've been getting from residents. And the ones that the ladies cannot satisfy, they send up to me, and I'm taking, 4 or 5 calls every day with pretty upset residents. A lot of them, once you explain it to them, a lot of them are understanding, but some aren't. And so I guess what I just wanted to bring it to your attention, what the PCA is doing, how much it's adding to their home, their utility bills. The average is it on this one? Scroll down to the next one. Kind of the average PCA charge is $57 added to their power bill. That bottom right corner. This just kind of gives you kind of a history of since we implemented the PCA. So you can kind of see that top is the UAMPS power bills. And December was crazy, $766,000 for December. What was the last December? The year before it was 273,000. The year before that, 227. So I mean it almost quadrupled the power bill in December. And December was kind of a perfect storm, I guess you'd call it. Normally, if there's any maintenance to be done, like on our generators or the Nebo power plant, they do it during the winter because prices, we don't need the power as much and prices are down. But December market prices were up to $200, and they're usually 30 or $40 a megawatt. And for some reason, I think it's just natural gas prices and just the supply and demand, the market, it was up to $200 a megawatt. So it was just a perfect storm. Nebo power plant was down for almost the whole month of December. They had the whole turbine pulled out and was replacing sections of the turbine. And then our generators were still pretty much down because we were installing our SCADA system, and Wheeler was still finishing up a few things on our generators. So we couldn't run our generators through December. So it was kind of a perfect storm why our power bill was so high in December. And we had to go out on the market for what we couldn't produce and also what Nebo wasn't producing. And it's about 2.5 megawatts is what Nebo we get from Nebo. So I've talked to Brock. He kind of just wanted me to get your feeling if we want to try to absorb some of this cost. I mean, it would just come out of our reserves. Right now, the PCA is set up just to recover. Just breaking even. We're just trying to cover our costs. We wouldn't be making any money. We're not making any money on the PCA. It's just recovery at this point. That's kind of the way it was set up, just to recover the 100% of our costs. So I don't know. I kind of like to get your feeling what you think we can do if you want to try to absorb some of this cost or keep it going.
The only problem with absorbing the costs is we're going to have to make it up sometime in the future anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't help to do that. The only thing I don't have any problems having public meetings to explain exactly why it's going on. It might even change the political nature of a few people to understand that this is beyond the control of local government and even state government. This is a problem that stems from federal regulations and laws that have closed down the ability for power companies to exist at their current rate without changes. I mean, I don't see that softening the blow makes it any better for the individual, because some point in time, somebody has to make that up. We either have to raise the rates overall, or we continue to do the surcharge. What'd we lose? 600,000 in the power department a year ago?
800, over 800, it was almost 200, like 180 something in 2020 and over 800,000 in 2021. So just in those 2 years, it was just over $1 million.
And one of the things that's happened in the past, not just with our city, but other cities with their own electrical, is they've made money enough that they could actually borrow from that department to help out other areas and then repay it. But if we get to a point where we have no reserves, what happens when we have to run a line? What happens when we have to supply a new subdivision or a commercial development that requires excess power? I mean, all of those issues.
Or, catastrophic failure of a substation.
If you break your bond covenant.
Yeah, that's the big problem. If
Yeah.
you break your bond covenant, you're done.
Yeah. Or if we have a catastrophic failure in one of the generators or one of the substation transformers, I mean, there's $500,000 right there.
Well, so to me, what we're doing is necessary. The information being put out may need to meet with our citizens to let them know why, but I'm not sure. Ben, have you been collecting any money from the power department?
What's that? Collecting? Trying to do. I've got.
I mean,
I
it's
got
not like any one of us are making any money. This has nothing to do. We're paying the same
No.
surcharge that they're paying, and we just need to let them justify why we do it. To me, it's scary what could go on and where we're headed if something isn't done governmentally on a different level.
Yeah. When the PCA first went out last March, we sent the letter out explaining what it was and why we needed it. We've sent it out again in this last power bill, and I changed it up a little bit. I tried to do some more explanations, just to let them know that we did lose over $1 million in 2 years, or we just can't afford to do that. It's on our website. I don't know what else, unless that was one of my questions. Would you entertain having a town hall meeting? We'd probably have to do it in sections of town. We couldn't fit everybody in here at once, but
We talked about breaking the town down in quadrants and having like each section come in instead of everybody at once.
I think you can.
I don't know. I mean, is that opening up a can of worms? We're gonna have a big
Sure.
fight on our hands?
The answer to that question is
Probably.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Will they feel better when they leave? Maybe.
maybe.
Not all of them. You'll never please them all, but you may give them an opportunity to vent and make them feel better.
I feel like that's what a lot of them want when they call in. They just want to be heard and to know that they're not happy with it.
Well, a lot of them, like I said, a lot of them are satisfied when we explain to them that, the cost of power has just risen it's just basic economics, it's supply and demand. And a lot of them understand that, and they're okay with it. They're not happy, but at least they understand why. We're not trying to make money. It's just, we're just covering our costs. But there are some that think we could do a better job of managing our power supply, but
Right. And I have citizens saying, are they asleep at the wheel at the power department?
yeah.
And I tell them no, and I think this is kind of a perception issue. So I went through and looked at my last 6 months in my power bill, and the PCA increased my bill by 27% in September, then 36%, then 50%, then 48%, then 51%, then 68% last month. So I think we're all kind of used to prices going up, inflation, like we get it, but anything above 25%, I think is going to freak anybody out.
Yeah, mine's at 30. I was gonna tell you, ours at 30%.
And so again, it's kind of a perception thing. Like everyone knows power is expensive in Santa Clara. We all get that. But this is like an I gotcha on your statement. Like you never know what it's going to be. You can't plan for it. It changes every month. I'd much rather just raise our rates. We already have high rates. Like that's what St. George just did. They raised their rates. Like I would much rather do that than have this variable thing that just makes people mad. You just have to make the money somehow. And I could see like maybe we do the PCA, but it's limited to at most 25%, but we raise our rates somewhere else to make up for that when it does need to go up or something like that. Cause I just think I'm concerned we're not going to get reelected because of this. There's that many mad people and it's just that we're mismanaging it in their minds.
Oh,
Yeah.
then don't change it. That's the easy way out. No. So I have a question on that though, and maybe it's just understanding. Like I look at like November versus May that are similar in dollar amounts. Your PCA rates significantly different. And 17 cents versus 47. What you collected was 41,000 versus 147. But yet the numbers at the top are similar. So
It's the 6-month look back.
It's
It's a rolling 6-month average, so every month it's gonna change, and then like for the next 6 months, that December power bill is gonna be affecting that PCA.
so when it should be going down, it's not.
It's not going to. Then by the time that December power bill gets out of the calculation for the PCA, we're gonna be into our summer months. So the residents aren't gonna get a break.
So was the Nebo and the generator thing affecting the January bill as well, or was it all in
Yes.
December?
Well, a little bit. Well, a little, not much. More generators, but the Nebo plant, I believe, was up and running all last month.
It's all gas prices, honestly.
Yeah.
Natural
a lot,
gas?
A lot of it's
Yeah,
gas.
because this administration cut carbon. They want carbon cut 30%, and then they banned fracking. So we don't get the cheaper fuel there. Then you have the Russia-Ukraine war going on, so we're not getting any fuel from over there. So it's just like a perfect storm and it keeps compounding.
A lot of it too is a lot of the natural gas, coal, they can sell it, export it and make more money than they can keeping it in the United States. I was just talking to one of the guys that runs the Nebo power plant. And he says there's a lot of it that's just getting exported. That's why we're having shortages at Hunter, he thinks, not just lack of production. It's just getting shipped out of the country. I'm not sure of the laws, the exporting laws on our natural resources, but whatever fines are imposed on them, they're okay with because they can still make more money exporting it and selling it and pay those fines, and they're still making more money. So a lot of it is policy like that. It's not helping with our resources.
I guess just if you go to the PCA calculation 2.png, like it shows it's like a different document.
Oh, is that the Excel?
Oh, you want to look at the spreadsheet that's showing the?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can see like there's a column that shows basically what the rate was. It's what 1, 2, 3. Anyways, it's the 6-month PCA kilowatt at retail, and it shows like in January the PCA was almost 8 cents. I mean, that's almost our power rate.
Are we talking January of 23?
Yeah, it's that right there. You can see.
This new one right here.
078.
Yeah, that 078. From what I understand, that's what the actual PCA is for that month. So then that's where I'm getting my 68% increase. I mean, it's almost doubling everyone's power bill. That's why everyone's so mad.
Yeah, that December, we were paying 19 cents a kilowatt
Yeah, you can
and
see
selling
that.
it for 9. So that's
Right.
where that really jumped up is for that December bill.
Make it up in volume.
That's why I'm saying like we raise the base rate. That's been one of my goals for a long time, to raise the base rate. That solves a lot of problems. That's what St. George just did. And I haven't heard a lot of pushback from that.
Yeah, but they just raised their base rate to what?
Went from 19 to 25.
Yeah.
About $6.
And then they only raised their kilowatt rate by like 0.002 or something like that. Not a very big increase.
But they did raise their base rate and
Yes.
Dixie REA is raising it. You know, they were at one point the cheapest power. And again, because of Deseret Power increasing their rates, they've all got to increase their rates. It's not, I mean, it's not a hidden situation. We're not trying to hoodwink the citizens and collect more money so we can have a vacation in Hawaii. You know, it's because it's got to be charged. Someone has to pay it or we're out of power. We can go to California and have rolling brownouts and pay 23 cents a kilowatt and still have rolling brownouts.
Yeah.
Because their legislature is scared to death to do anything. That's why they've got a $22 billion deficit and no way of paying it back. I mean, we got to be smart enough to figure it out. But I really believe that knowledge helps to soften the blow. And if we can have those public meetings, you put it out in their bill and put it out on the computer and stuff. I would bet you that 30% of the population in Santa Clara is just a touch older than me. No. And so they don't see those things, but when they get their power bill, then they see it, then they want to know why. And if we can, in the forefront, let them know, which we tried to do. It wasn't our fault they didn't read it. Wasn't our fault they didn't follow the website.
Well,
But it is our fault if we haven't explained it enough for them to know. And to me, I think that's,
Well, and am I reading the table right that even though you did the PCA, you still lost money?
Yeah, that's what it shows. So it means it has to be even higher going
Well,
forward to make up for that, right?
Yeah, I think it like, and who knows how long it's going to take. for
November
that.
and December, you made
Lost
even
money.
the January and February and March, you're losing. And that loss, well, March doesn't have your revenue in it yet.
Well, so this may be off a little bit because of that column K, the one that the cursor's on now, that 300,000. We asked UFS to add a column if we wanted to make a contribution to that ECA. So if we took that 300,000 out, it would change the calculations. Sure. So Jim, can you click on that K, the one that's highlighted, and just delete?
One I'm looking at doesn't have a K.
Oh, I don't know.
Is it not? Oh yeah, just no, not up there. No, go down,
Down where the blue box is, where you were.
right there. That 300,000.
You just,
Can you delete that?
might not have the edit,
oh, it's not even let 'em edit.
It might not let you.
which is good.
No, don't
Oh,
do
does
that.
it
Don't
not?
do that. Don't do that.
Just take the number out of that box. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just click on that box and then hit delete.
Hit delete
Or the backspace?
No, don't right click. Just hit delete.
on your keyboard.
Just put 0,
Or yeah, just type 0 in it.
type of 0.
There you go. Then that shows the PCA without that contribution from the city.
What is it?
Yeah, I can't read it.
0.078.
This over here,
Yep.
0.07818.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
What's the difference?
it was 0.065.
Um,
So the one we have in our packet is without the contribution.
Yeah, it doesn't have the contribution in it.
Yeah,
Correct.
that matches up.
Yeah.
Is there more table to the right of what you're showing there?
Yes.
Over that?
You could scroll to the right.
And I mean, I just had this concern when we implemented it, we get these crazy swings and that we'd have really upset citizens. And so that's why I'd much rather there be some sort of a cap on it. And it triggers some other increase somewhere else.
Well, and the other question I have, Gary, is gas dipped to 207 about 2 weeks ago. Natural gas.
I don't know if we've ever seen it. We get a daily market
So
and I don't think it's ever been below.
No, it's way different.
4 or
We're
5 where we get our gas.
what are you getting at? Again,
It's like
I'm
from River Opal.
just looking at the market, what it's trading at.
Oh, the
Well,
what?
maybe it's
Well, that's probably with transmission costs and everything else to get it to us. Our price was, I don't think it's been below $4 or $5 for.
The lowest I've seen is 5 right now.
So, so that's the other thing. Again, if you look, I mean, fuel costs are down just from the first of the year. They're down 54% for natural gas. So you're gonna, the actual gas itself. So, and it's down 78% since September. I mean, those costs are, but I don't know when that translates. The reason I ask is we can lock in at some point, but not at 5. You're certainly, I don't know, you know, when you start getting to a number where it's, because I think we're going to see this on a regular basis. And I think we need to just be prepared that let's try to lock in a great rate on our, you know, control the costs ourselves and run our generators.
Yeah, we're UAMPS is looking at it right now. They're looking at a 5-year purchase for the Nebo power plant and a 5-year purchase for the members' internal generation. So they're doing a study right now and trying to get some numbers from, I think, three different natural gas companies: BP, SEMA, the TEA. I can't remember them all, but they're looking doing it right now, trying to get some figures from them. A lot of them don't want to do a 5-year without, like SEMA. They're good for, you know, day ahead, 2 or 3 days ahead, but a 5-year they want some kind of a bond that in place, and it's just wouldn't figure out for a 5-year purchase from them, but we are investigating that.
Let me ask a question. Maybe this is something we don't need to discuss, but we use UAMPS pretty much as our sole for providing us with utility power. Is there any other associations out there that are equally as good? I mean, not that we want to get away from them. I'm just saying they're searching for power for us right now. You know, like the solar, the nuclear power plant. Are they getting any new contracts with any other power companies? I mean, San Juan is going out. We're losing 2 more power plants in the next year. And that's our cheap source of power. Are we getting anything to replace that yet?
Yes, they're looking. They've got the steel solar is going to be up in Cedar City, but it won't be online, and it was going to be 2026, but now they're estimating not till 28. And they are looking at other resources as well. But I don't know if we can. I've never been, really looked at that, if we can buy power from on our own outside of UAMPS. I don't know where it all comes through their lines.
Yeah, I mean,
Not sure.
you get outside the box and now you've got to do your drone transmission agreements and everything else.
Like the
All right.
competition between Dixie REA and Utah Power and Light and cities. You have to find the transmission lines in the areas and.
Yeah. And Jared, I want to get back to what you mentioned about doing a rate increase instead of the PCA. I mean, there's pros and cons to both. One pro for the PCA is it follows what prices are. So if prices in the next year or two, hopefully if they start going down, then the PCA will start dropping off. With a rate increase, you'd have to, I don't know if you'd want to do a rate decrease. I guess you could if we got to where we were
Just have to do the study to
do the studies.
justify.
I know Hurricane City just did a 15% increase, I think 2 or 3 months ago. And they're looking at doing another 10% increase, just flatted rate
They didn't
increase.
do the PCA
And they're looking at doing a PCA right now.
again. Didn't their council vote it down?
I don't know.
I brought it to council twice and it was voted down twice. They did the rate increase instead. So they did a rate increase in January and they're bringing it to council tomorrow to do another 10% increase.
So that's kind of
Which I think our citizens could stomach that a lot easier, to be honest.
And that was one of the concern, or a lot of the concerns of the residents was not knowing. They couldn't budget for this because it changes every month.
And it almost doesn't make sense. So like, I'm not using a lot of power in December, but yet it's a huge chunk of my bill. I think that's the other hard thing, where it's 68% of my bill added on this on my current bill. How do you plan for that? Like, you expect your bill to go down go down in the winter, and it's just not lining up mentally for people. And again, it depends on how you want to charge for things. It's any business deals with this, and how do you make the money you need to make? There's lots of different ways to do it. And I would rather it be something people can plan on for sure.
What's the rest of the council's thought on doing a rate increase instead of PCA? I don't know I haven't looked at the figures, what we would have to get it up to break even.
I'd like to see that, but I think you make a great point. If power goes down, then we still have those increased rates.
Yeah.
And the consumer doesn't benefit from that. So that concerns me. And
Well,
I
I
think they will go down.
Unless you raised it to the maximum that you're paying on the highest peak month,
Right.
there is still going to be months where you're going to be behind the 8 ball
Mhm.
that you're not going to have enough to do it. So, I mean, either we analyze it to the point where we say, okay, it's going to, if our average is 68% higher, the highest month, then we raise the rate 68% across the board. Then we're never going to have to raise a surcharge. Okay. But if we do that, you can budget for it. You just can't pay it.
Well, and if you start tweaking it every month or every 2 months.
Yeah.
You can't budget for that either, because you're gonna walk into that knowing, yeah, this is gonna work for maybe 60 days, and then we're gonna have to change it again. And then we're gonna have to change it again.
I agree. I don't know how you get away from the surcharge. but-
I think the consumer is dealing with the volatility that the city is dealing with. And then we can't control that.
That's what the PCA does, is it passes that market volatility to the end user.
So I guess I'm just asking, can we shield them somewhat from that?
And I think
Some
that's
other
the
way.
question you've got is it feels, this is where it's hard in this. I mean, you go to fill up your gas tank, you know what it just feels like there's just, and Jared's point, don't take this the wrong way, but you know, when you say because people do say, well, are they asleep at the wheel? It kind of just takes, well, are we doing everything we can to keep those
Rates down.
rates as you know, because I think we all expected we'll go through the summer, we'll collect what we need to balance for those high things, but we've already got our load for the winter. We've already got we are, from what we already have our base covered for the winter. Well, now it's not the case. Now
Well, like I said, December was just a perfect storm with Nebo going down. We lost 2.5 megawatts from Nebo. And then our generators were down. So it was just a perfect storm. And then the market prices just, for some reason, was 200% more. That's something you can't predict and plan on. I mean, you plan your maintenance in the winter, because that's when usually your power rates are low and you don't have as much load that you need to run them. So that's why Nebo did theirs in the winter, and it just
I don't know.
crazy. The PCA, I mean, next year, this summer, I mean, we're going to be running the heck out of our generators, try to keep us out of the market. Same with next winter. So it will get better now that we have our generators running. And Nebo's rebuilt, so it should last quite a long time unless there's something happens there.
Are we running all 4 of our generators now?
No, they're doing the load bank tests as we speak. Well, they just finished up the load bank test. Now they're doing a black start procedure with the load bank equipment there that it adds it. What the load bank test does, it creates like a draw on those generators, so they can test how much load the generators can pick up in a black start situation. So if the town's completely out of power, we can fire those generators up. We know how many megawatts or we can add to those generators at one time. So if we have to turn off parts of the town and bring them up slowly, or if we can bring on how much of the town at one time. That's kind of what this load bank test does.
So are all 4 of them down right now?
Well, yes, because they're running these tests.
So how long does it take to complete the tests?
I'm hopefully they'll be done by the end of the week or next week.
So we've been able to run all 4 at times during the past? We've never been
No.
able to run all four at one time.
Well, August.
August.
Mhm.
Gary, one other question. Those are natural gas generators. So what is it costing us to generate the power? With the natural gas fluctuating, going up and down, what are we paying? Are we paying less than 8 cents? Are we going to be paying, at one time it was 13 or 14 cents a kilowatt to produce with the natural gas? Is it still that high? So really, we're still at the surcharge even when we're using those generators. It's just, it reduces the amount of paying at 20 cents. But I don't know what we're producing it at what price.
They were 5.4 when we originally. $54 is what we were producing at whatever the gas prices is when we purchased the generators. So
Yeah, but gas prices they fluctuate daily.
Yeah.
And it could be $4 or $5 a day. I mean, it's so hard to tell. So at $5, what are we at about? Like at $5, is it like
Around 70,
$60, $70?
about $70.
So 7 cents a kilowatt, 7-8 cents a kilowatt.
Well, and that's great.
Yeah, $5, but like say most of December, I mean, it was up to $17, $18.
It's hard. It's like you need a crystal ball because, it'll say you can produce this if you run the generators. You're like, oh, it's a good price. And then you look at the market and it's half of what you would pay to run your generator. So it's a game.
But we haven't run all four at one time other than August because they were not working right, or we just determined not to run all four at the same
Well,
time.
the two new ones were just getting installed in July. They didn't get installed until July. And then the issues they were having with the gas, I mean, they ran into a lot of issues trying to get them up and running. So we ran most of July with all four of them.
Okay.
I mean, August, not July, August. And then parts of September.
And then they had to be adjusted again.
Well, no, now we did the upgrade to the two old units. We upgraded the control panels. So the two old units had the same control panels as the two new units in order for them all to work together a lot better.
Okay.
And there's just one main control panel they all communicate to. And we had to upgrade those to get them all to communicate through the one panel. And so that's what they've been doing the last couple months, is getting those all rewired and then the SCADA installation, our new SCADA system. And that's how we communicate with the generators to run them. And then we monitor our substations and that through that same SCADA system. The SCADA system we had was really old since we put the building in. So, I mean, back in 2006. And so that SCADA system was just really aged, and we were afraid it was just going to go out on us and we wouldn't have any control of our substation equipment. Dustin couldn't monitor his wells, the well levels. So it needed to be done.
Okay.
So one other idea, I don't know how it would work in the calculation. I mean, it'd probably be the same with that column that UFS added. If we wanted to contribute, say we wanted to put that $300,000 in there just to kind of bring that December amount down where it's a little more reasonable. And then that will, if we left it in that calculation, it would soften that PCA until that December, that is out of the 6-month rolling average. I know that's something that Brock talked about, maybe if we could do something like that. But that's
spending 300,000 on your reserves to soften the 6-month average number.
Yeah.
I know he also wanted to know if city council would consider doing a cutoff, like percent.
Well, I thought we had that. I thought I had to come back to the council when it hit a certain number.
I don't
I
remember.
think we talked about it. We never
We
finalized
never
anything.
voted. So we were, because that's what our fear was. Again, you think it's bad now, wait till you have a whole new council in here that's lopping off heads because we got all voted out. But I thought we had done that, but we never set a level, huh? Because I thought that was our concern, is we didn't want invoices or bills going out that were so through the roof without knowing it is going to catch us off guard. So yeah, I think the numbers are 25 to 35% from what that's the talk of the beauty shop. just so everybody knows.
Mhm.
100% what gets talked about is my wife's ladies' utility bills.
Yeah.
So,
And that's something we could look at if you want to do a cap. If it gets to a certain percentage, we cap it. Or a certain kilowatt cents, if that's how you'd probably cap it, is by the kilowatt cents. If like the December power bill was, we were paying 19 cents. If you want to cap it at 14, 15.
How are we committed with our revenue sources towards bonding? I mean, if we keep reducing our reserves, your bonding will be triggered and you will not be able to do really anything because you won't be able to sell the bonds. And therefore, no matter what you try and do, you're not going to, I don't know. I just think that what we're actually doing is the best.
Yeah, we ain't going to bond covenants again, ever.
well, is our reserve, but do our reserves, I guess that's the question, do our reserves, again, that's a question we'd have to look at on the total numbers, knowing that if you went to here, what does it do? If you did a fixed rate, again, it is much higher than I think anybody of us expected. I think
Yeah.
we were all, but you're taking it out of the reserve. It's just, you know what, I don't know what the reserves have done. I don't think we have that data. Maybe.
No, I don't have it up.
So,
But we still have a shortfall even with the PCA, right?
A little.
but have the reserves gone down or up?
They would, they'd be going down if you got a
They'd go
negative.
down because you're making it up. You're making up the shortfall even now as it stands,
Yeah,
right?
It's coming out of
Well,
reserve.
that's what I'd like to know. I mean, do we know that?
I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to get
Well,
with
isn't
Rock on
that
that.
the,
Isn't that the 270?
zoom in on those two numbers
Yeah,
The negative.
in the difference column right there, Jim.
like the $273,000.
Come on,
Nice.
come on over to the right.
To the right.
Just past.
Right there.
There's two numbers right there, the last 2 months on the difference.
Well, March doesn't
So
have,
Mike,
That one is $250,000.
right.
Yeah.
so did your reserve actually go down by $250,000?
I
That's
don't
my
think
question.
so.
That was a deficit.
So that says in December, we lost
That's,
$250,000.
yeah, and that's
Losing
what I'd like to see is,
reduction
are-
in reserve.
is everything adding up? A lot of people that work in spreadsheets, take no offense, but they can move any variety of numbers, any different ways. I'd like to know if we actually dropped our reserves $270,000 at that same.
Brock could
Yeah, I'm,
tell that.
there's
All right.
a lot of information in this that's being collected. It's actually collecting data from other sheets as well, I believe. And so we'll have to get with UFS and ask that.
Just send out a text, yes or no. Yes, it matches. No, it didn't match.
Did I ruin his vacation?
Well, and at one time, I think you said this PCA would start paying back the 800,000 that we'd lost over the past 2 years, but it doesn't look like that's happening, or is that what the?
Well, that's the rolling 6 month goes back into that 800,000.
So what if we looked at not going back into the 800,000 and just kind of this point forward? Would that be better for residents? Not for reserves, of course, but
We could go,
I don't know, because they're
I think
paying
they had
that
enough.
deficit
We should be past that now. right?
according to this, right?
Like we're past those 6 months, aren't we? We're in a new 6 months where all that's rolled off, isn't it? How
Well,
long does that carry?
All those 2 years weren't part of that 6-month average.
No.
Because the 2 years were prior to when we put the PCA into place and the 6 months before, I guess. Wasn't it 2020 and 2021?
That's when we lost.
The 800,000.
The 800,000 was 21,
And then 200,000 more in 20?
yes.
I thought it was 800 total, but it's a million
million.
total. Okay.
Yeah.
So
If you look at that difference under 2021, it's probably that number's probably in.
those there.
Yeah.
But those are being, that's what I guess I'm confused on. They are being accounted in this PCA or they're not?
So it's revenue less expenses, so we just need to get with Brock. The
Yeah.
difference, I think, would be the difference. It's got to come from someplace. You didn't collect it from the PCA.
Oh, that's what this total is down here on March then. The 595 is kind of the overall.
It was-
Still 600.
They haven't got their sales in there.
There's no revenue.
There's no revenue in there.
There's like a 2-month delay by the time when we get our UAMPS power bill and by the time it gets calculated in PCA and out to the customers. So that may be part of that 2-month delay.
Sounds like we'll get Brock in here next week and he got some explaining to do.
But to answer your question, like I'd totally be in favor of a cap of some sort. And then, but I think we're gonna have to talk about a base rate increase.
I
the same
think
time.
you're gonna do both. If you're gonna cap, then you're gonna have a base rate increase.
And I would vote for that.
And you're probably gonna have multiple base rate increases over a year unless the market changes. You could do 6 base rate increases in 2023.
I mean, honestly, that's what I wanted for years. That solves a lot of problems for the power department, because a lot of our fixed costs are made up in a variable rate. So if you can just creep up your base rate, then it doesn't matter how much power someone uses, their costs are covered either way. So that's been the goal all along, but I wasn't expecting to go up that fast for sure.
Well, I think
I think you put it back on the agenda next week, Brock Jr.
Okay.
Have
I-
more
have him bring
discussion
both.
with the bookkeeper here.
Okay, I'll be out of town next week.
Oh, don't even think about it, bro.
Can you guys just let me
Um,
know what additional
The trustee
information?
assistant will have to be standing there in the chair.
Hey,
I'm moral support. But if you guys have other information that you want me to gather before that meeting, just message me so I can get it together before.
I had one guy ask if we encourage solar, if we could help the PCA.
that was one of my last options right here is see if we want to entertain changing our solar agreement. And I talked to Brock about it last week. I mean, if we could raise the cap we have is 8 kilowatts installed, if we could raise it up to 10. Like I said, we don't want to just open it up and let everybody put what they want on, then we'd end up like California with the duck curve and the problems that creates. But if we went to 10 kilowatts, I'd let them produce a little bit more. And if we reduce the solar reliability charge, that, like I said, it still cuts into revenues, but it's more of an incentive for people to install solar. And then that's that much less we have to purchase on the market. And it might make solar look a little more appetizing, a little more user-friendly. A lot of people I've talked to, I've got a lot of questions since we redid that solar agreement, the mistake we found, and a lot of them would like to see some change in that agreement as well. A lot of them, of calls I've gotten is, well, with that solar reliability charge and the limited amount I can put on, it's not worth it to put on my house. It doesn't pencil in to make it worthwhile. So they're not putting it on. And so I don't know, I'd like to talk about that. Maybe not this meeting, but maybe another meeting we can discuss that. But that would probably help us as well. Reduce our load.
But I thought that was the point of the solar reliability charge. It was because you still had to provide you still had to have
Service.
the ability to provide the service.
Yeah.
Is
Right.
just the weather we've had last couple of months with all the storms killing the solar output, causing the market to go higher?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly if that,
That's what I've heard from all of the solar users. That they want to increase to 10 kilowatts and that this rate needs to stop. I can't control that.
I gotta believe up and down California with the snows and,
yeah.
I mean, even when you're getting snow down into San Diego.
It did it when they had the fires in August, it cut their efficiency on all those huge solar fields big time.
Oh
They
yeah.
ran into the same market
Yeah.
blow up.
I'm sure it all affects the market. Just like I said, it's just supply and demand. Demand goes up and supply is not there, prices go up.
To answer your question, I'd like to see this and also the electrical fund itself to see what's been brought in
Okay.
on those, just to see if, like I said, those numbers do actually.
Is Brock going to be here
Gross.
next week?
He'll be here.
Okay. I didn't.
I don't-
Yeah, if we
I don't think they will. And the reason why is because I think in your fund, I think we set this rate to still allow to put into reserves and everything else on the base rate and everything else. So I gotta believe, even though that shows it a loss, I wouldn't be surprised at all if there's not been money set aside into the reserve from because we created that buffer in there. It's not straight across it. So, but I might be wrong. It's been a while.
Yeah. And that's something we'll have to talk with UFS on it as well. They're the ones that created the spreadsheet, so we'll get their input on it and see.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to know if we do start putting some money into it to lower the PCA, how long can we do that until we
Not-
are in trouble?
not
Because I have
not
no
too
idea
long.
what that is.
Well, we're not looking at the other side of it.
Yeah.
We're looking at this only, and that's the problem. We've got half the data.
And that's something UFS mentioned too. I mean, that's their job, is to look out for the best interest of the city, make sure we're financially stable. And that's what they suggest is I wouldn't touch it. I'd leave it alone. You're just trying to recoup your costs. If you do that, you're cutting into your reserves and your cash reserves, and then you mentioned your bonding issues.
Gary, how much do we have in reserve in the power?
I'm not as
Our
actually sure
budget, what, didn't it show 600,000 total in our budget retreat for the reserve in the?
I think that up in the UAMPS reserve that we have at the UAMPS. I think
It's not very much.
No,
600. No, that's not
figuring.
much.
If we put $300,000, we have no reserves.
Yeah, I thought the reserves were in the millions.
That's
for
what
the
I
fire
thought.
department.
I
It
don't.
might be.
I think they're in the millions.
We need to have that. Dude. That's something that I think it was in the 3 or 4 million.
And it,
It's not 600,000.
We could lose that in a month.
Well, I get that. We could lose a lot. But
well, I mean, we
we just need the data. We got so little data here that.
we had that on our budget retreat. That was one of our accounts that shows what we have as far as reserves. Jim, do we have, that'd be Brock, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'd have to ask Brock.
I can't remember. It wasn't very much in my.
That may have just been the reserve account, a different reserve account like at UAMPS. I know Jack had a lot. That might have been the
He's
600
got a reserve account at UAMPS that he uses every once in a while,
Right,
in addition to
projects.
the reserves in the electric.
Yeah.
But we can get those numbers for next week. That's easy.
Sorry, I wasn't prepared on that.
Yeah, it just to help with this, I think it'll be nice because that's what I'd like to know. It'll be interesting to see it.
It'd be nice just to add a column there too, so we can keep an eye on it.
Yeah, to know what you're actually at.
Yeah. Yeah, I will not be here next week. It's my son's graduation at boot camp, so we're going to be flying out to South Carolina for that. So if it was another trip, I'd cancel it. This one I can't.
I'll be here.
And I guess just one more thing to add. Sorry, I don't want to belabor this, but just there aren't a whole lot of businesses where what you pay varies that widely based on some particular market. Like at Laser Mania, if like we have to do a big plumbing bill, I don't raise our rates for 3 months to cover that. I just absorb it and we figure it out. And we have to raise our rates overall to cover that, but that's what people are used to. And like, yeah, eggs have gone up and everyone's used to that. It's not this month, it's this much more. Next month, it's that much more. I don't know. Like, it's just, it's how we're charging it that's so tricky.
We'll wait 6 months for payment.
What's that?
Is there a supplier you have that will wait 6 months for a payment?
No,
These swings are so big.
that's just what's so hard. The swings have been way more extreme than I expected.
Those 3 months is $700,000 in 3 months.
Hmm.
Those 3 months right there,
Yeah.
September, October, November. You lost $700,000 in 3 months, in 90 days. If that's what that column is,
Which one?
I think it is. Yeah.
that difference column.
Oh
And
yeah.
I mean, the way I'm reading this, it says base revenue. So I think that includes the base rate and we still lost. all
But
that.
like I said, I think we'll have to figure on that too, if that's that 2 month lag from when our UAMPS bill comes and then the,
So just that 3 month period, no matter when it was used and collected,
yeah.
you punch 700,000 in the negative out of your column.
Oh yeah.
So.
Like I said, when we were paying
can't-
19 cents a
can't
kilowatt.
mess around any one month, but I say if we try and do it to the rates, you're gonna be looking really detailed every month for the next month. And tweaking your rate to cover what you just happened.
That's why I'm saying like we just do a blend, like we limit the PCA somehow and then make it up somewhere else. Cause I think people are okay with, yeah, things go up, inflation, whatever, but 68%, I don't think anyone ever would have guessed that.
You know what? If you could figure out where to do it, I think we'd all consider that.
Well, it's pretty simple. It's just your base rate goes up.
But that.
Like
doesn't
we made
offset the
$243,000 in base rate.
deficit, But it doesn't offset the deficit.
You'd be
just-
doubling your base. You'd have to double your base rate to get.
I mean, how does St. George just do it?
They lost several $1 million in the last few months.
Their reserve fund, they'll take gut punches in that reserve. fund
So
More than our.
Gary, did they eat some of the cost then?
They've got.
Yes, St. George City lost several million. I'm not
Yeah.
sure on any particular numbers, but I've heard they've lost several $1 million in the last few months. And they will, Lori's said they won't do a PCA. I don't know how they're gonna keep doing it, but
Wonder what your next director, Lori's gone in July. She got enough reserve to make it to her day.
I don't know.
So that'll come in January of
It'll be in
24.
July, first
Oh.
of July, they'll be doing a PCA.
At some point, they're not gonna have a reserve to be able to fund that.
No, like I said, I don't know what they're gonna do. And they didn't, like I said, they can't cover that with a $5 or $6 base increase.
Yeah, you'd have to double your base to kind of start where, and again, it might be, I'm not saying. I mean, again, I totally agree with everything that's been said there. We need the funds. We've got to look at it. Maybe it is a blended thing in the base rate. Maybe it's but we just got to look at it all. I think it's caught us all off guard.
Maybe we double the base and we give a rebate if we make a little money.
Well, and then you just look at but I think we have to look at it all and I think we need to spend some time on this big time because
Well-
it is probably our biggest waning.
I agree with everything that's been said, but the market doesn't agree with what we're talking about. It is fluctuating and it fluctuates a whole lot more than what we're talking about. And on certain months when we're hitting our peaks, I don't know how you come up with a way of,
A better way.
a better way of paying.
Well, I think we just need to understand it better, in my opinion.
You what?
I think we just need to understand all this a little.
We need to
better, right?
understand it better before we have the public meeting.
Before we have the public meeting, because right now I'm going to tell you, I just because I've got half the data on one side, not on the other. I can't tell you the whys exactly why it's doing what it's
We
doing.
need to see that reserve balance, what's happened
Yeah.
over every monthly in that reserve balance over the last 2 years.
So will
we
this,
can do
will
that.
this be back on the agenda next week for more discussion? Continued discussion led by Brock and Kate, it
Yeah.
sounds like, but discussion.
Yeah, let's bring in both sides and just
Tell-
understand it because there's a
Tell
lot of
Eric, he
questions.
can come stand there.
Okay.
And it's not the end of it. It's the problem is you're right, Danny. Power's a hassle right now.
It was,
It's I mean, and it's not going to get better unless but I just think we've got to just understand it from our side and be able to explain it better. And
well, we can I can see if UFS, one of the, Jillian or Mike from UFS that's helped us with this, if they can join us next Wednesday. That might help as well.
Maybe they could just add a column that has the tracking of our reserve fund that matches.
I can get it on.
So we see what that does.
Okay. We'll get with Debbie tomorrow and see if she can get that number and then we'll work with UFS on that.
I'm in favor of the idea of town hall
see all three.
meetings,
Well, I think.
also
Once we're educated.
Just on that.
educate, but also like, what can we do to lower our power bill too? I mean, that should be included in the discussion.
It does show.
I guess we could do a town hall meeting via Zoom as well. If we don't, no.
No,
And maybe.
nobody gets to sit home on their couch in their underwear and complain about what we're doing.
And then signal accidentally
Get on the
drops.
phone, You come on down, sit in that chair, and then you stand there.
That's probably a good idea.
That's not granted in the Constitution anywhere.
Any other discussion on this? Any other information you would like to see? Except what's
The
been,
perfect solution if you really.
I wish like I told some of the residents, I wish I had a crystal ball.
He does.
You got yours, that's right.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Does it work?
Oh,
Will it work for me?
it worked for me my whole career.
Okay. Well, if there's no more discussion, I guess we'll
Thanks, Kate.
adjourn this portion. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kate.
You know,
Holy smokes, there's not even any staff reports on here and they all stuck around. Chief, what do you got to say? Perfect. I knew you'd have something.
Well, I don't really have anything. I thought, well, you wanted an update on the grant that we applied through Congressman Stewart's office. We sat down with a group of us and it was hard because we were all over the map. We talked about the radios, we talked about cars and what we actually kind of separated ourselves from Iron County a little bit because it was going a little slow. And Chief Whitehead in St. George decided that St. George would do all the writing on the grant, which is great. We all provided our stuff, our letters, but what they've decided to do is to go for some major command vehicles. They're as expensive as the fire department stuff. So we're going to do that on the grant. We couldn't put in for the radios because the system comes online before the money's available. We're looking at a year and a half out, but we did come to some command vehicle, some stuff for the combined county SWAT team, a couple of vehicles there. So I think the grant came to about $2 million. So, and we're out, but we got it done in time. Actually, they kind of surprised us. It was actually due a day before they told us, but we spent all day Thursday and Friday on them and got them done, got them submitted. Everybody was pretty happy with what we came up with.
Yeah.
So I went out and watched Gunlock. I saw a lot of Santa Clara trucks going out there. It's kind of cool to see, but yeah, we're out there all night tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Let us know. You see
Well,
anything you need to be really worried about.
I saw everybody up there. I know the fire's been on it and I got the guys on it all night long.
The gauge has gone up 250 CFS while we've been sitting here.
Oh my goodness. That's
It's gone up 20% since
Well,
we've been sitting here.
while I was up there at Gunlock, you know how the water comes through Gunlock and it goes down those little tunnels between the rocks? Just in the 30 minutes I sit there, it was just rushing over the top. I've never seen that before. And then coming out of there, the water was actually the asphalt coming down the road.
The road's
So
closed now. They've closed.
Is it closed now? I called the sheriff and said, "Do you want us to do anything from it?" He said, "But I knew it was going to have to close." It was wild. It's a lot of water, and the waterfalls look pretty cool.
It's continually increasing. That's why I've been on my phone all night.
Is it going to continue through the night? You know,
I don't know.
going to continue through the
I
night.
think it's going to continue increasing. I keep waiting for it to pop, but it hasn't.
Wow, impressive. That's all I have as far as an update.
Okay, sir.
thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Ryan?
Well, this weekend's the second and last week of True Grit. I'll be back and hopefully they do a little better job cleaning up after themselves this weekend, but
They're back this weekend.
they're doing the gravel race this weekend. Yep, they split it up into 2 weeks because it got so big. So got another tournament this weekend. We've had a steady flow of burials every week. Little League's getting up and running. They had tryouts. They're starting practices. I think what is the 28th?
I think they're the end of the month.
You start playing games. Just put on your calendar, Saturday, April 22nd is Earth Day. Also Arbor Day. That's the day we're planning on doing our movie in the park at Canyon View. There's a lot going on. We've got the fair and the kite festival, but we've scheduled it that way before. Now we've always had a good turnout.
Is that
So,
Saturday?
Yes.
Second Saturday of the fair.
yes.
Yeah.
So the movie right now is
Fair.
Minions Rise of Gru. If you want to see it, come watch.
What movie?
Minions, The Rise of Gru.
Ooh, nice. One of my faves.
So that's all I've got.
Questions for Ryan, council? Thanks, Ryan. Gary?
Do you want to hear more from me?
Absolutely. Just the good news, though.
Just the good news. We did finally hire someone to fill an open position we had. He's not a journeyman lineman, but We couldn't get any journeyman linemen to apply, so we ended up hiring a third year step apprentice. He's got enough hours to be a third year, but all of his hours are union. So we're going to get him into the IPSA program and see where he fits in. He should have enough hours to be a third year step. So he's about the same, about as far along as Thomas Hailstone is. And Thomas Hailstone just took his apprenticeship, third year step apprenticeship, and passed all 4 tests that are included in that test. So now he's a 4th year apprentice. He's got 1 more year left and he'll be a journeyman. That's about it. The guys have been pretty busy just helping Wheeler Machinery with the load bank test on the generators. Getting the black start procedures written up. They had to rewrite all the black start procedures because of the new system. So that should be up and running here next week. Just pulling wire into subdivisions. They were pulling wire up into the Solace phase 1, trying to get that ready. And then they're getting ready to start. Well, they've been pulling wire down to phase 11 in the vineyards, so we can get some power ran up through to when we go down the vineyard to remove that overhead power line. We got to have some power run through the vineyards phase 11. We're kind of pushing that along first. Usually we wait till sidewalk and everything's in before we pull wire and terminate, but they've got the conduits already in, and we'll get wire pulled in there and start heating that up just so we can get power up to Vineyard Drive, a different source, so we can take that overhead power line down when they go through there. That's about it.
Questions for Gary? Thanks, Gary. Dustin?
Vineyard Drive phase 1 started last week. They've got the storm drain installed and they're starting the joint utility trench. Me and Brock went and visited with the majority of the homeowners in phase 1. One of them was undecided on how to pay. The other one wanted to make payments, and everybody else said, let me know when you're ready for a check. So it went really well. Public Works Department still working on water services on phase 2, but the main line is all in. Feller Enterprises started the Lugano subdivision this week, which is Jason Lindsay's over here, and they'll do the 5 homes right there around it at the same time. I put a slurry seal out to bid with Ivan City a couple of weeks ago. We're going to have a bid opening on the 28th to continue on with our pavement maintenance program like we always have. And I just got word that Gunlock was at 10 inches deep going over the spillway this morning. And I just got a call from Jeff Lance. It's now at 2.5. So we've got more water coming.
2.5 feet.
Yeah. I've got a couple staff members there all night that can run the excavators, and contractors that are ready with a phone call. I've got a second excavator down there from another contractor. So we'll keep a close eye on it. That's all I have.
Do we have any updates on Utopia?
Still waiting for their permit.
This is their Bluff Street Sunset Boulevard connection.
Yeah.
Right. I've sent an email. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere.
They're just as frustrated as we are.
Can't get it through the St. George JEC to connect up. I've tried sending an email trying to encourage the St. George JEC to do something about it, but nothing's happened yet. We're not going to grab any more debris off the bridge. We're letting it all go to St. George.
Yeah. unless they grant our permit, call the mayor.
We're just throwing it over the top again. Okay, Chief.
All right, good evening. We've been just go along the lines with the flood prep, just getting our maps out, floodplain stuff, get the crews basically oriented with ties up there as well tonight, but just oriented with some of the hot spots that we're looking at, and then working with the public works guys, and met with Dustin today, just kind of plan on 3 different phases. Obviously, if it the spillway into the Snow Canyon ball fields, getting those barriers set up. So guys are there obviously 24 hours ready to go with that. They do have some gear that we have, like some throw bags and stuff, and flotation devices that are look a little different than the one we saw tonight, but if we need to do anything, we obviously have, search and rescue to help with that. So we're ready to go from our end. Just some other calls. We had a couple, we had a brush fire. It was about 4 acres out in Ivans. Obviously the quilt shop, there was a vehicle into the quilt shop. So some technical calls. We're getting some supplies, some basic things that we need to kind of handle those, but that's kind of on the emergency response end. And then I'm going up to the state next week for a UWASH meeting. I get credits for it for kind of staying ahead of those things. We made some alterations to the stations. There was a consultant that came down and helped us out with that, just staying ahead of those things. But other than that, just kind of working our usual programs. Lance is working on the drone stuff and dispatching that, still moving forward. There's actually a third party consultant from Salt Lake City Fire that's wrapping up the end phase of our dispatching stuff that we purchased for the county. And then obviously the bills that are coming through, and one of them was the fire code got adopted for 2021. So we'll have to probably adopt that one. And there's some other things, admin stuff, but that's kind of the gist of what we're doing. And the wildland season this year too, we're going to probably engage with that in a limited capacity, but the rates are really great for reimbursement. So probably get 100%, if not more than that. The calculations on it are, we get more than 100% back depending on what we send. So that's in the works. That all has to be submitted by May 1st. So any questions for me? CIB tomorrow too for the 5 counties, just to stay engaged with that. We're not sure exactly because the ladder's a big cost, but they do bake them actually where they'll fit in the station we have. So I contacted a company back in Pennsylvania, and so that we don't even have to build a station for that. So we're going to stay engaged with that. That's through the Utah Tech. The kids come, Cole, I think is the gentleman's name, but he might come up to that meeting tomorrow up in Cedar City. So we're staying engaged on that end of the grants. So
Sandbags at the city yard, they're available. If anybody asks you, council, or get a hold of fire, who do I ask?
So yeah, we have them at the station.
Yeah,
So
fire.
they drop sand, the bags are there in a container. It's sealed. All they got to do is open them. The guys will help them fill those. Preferably they'd go there and get those. These are more of, hey, we have the strategic plan. I mean, I'll let Dustin speak on it, but that's kind of what we kind of talked about, because those are already ready filled and go into play really quick. Where if the residents need something for their house, just go to the Rachel station and folks will help them fill up. 25 is what we're asking maximum, but it's only for Santa Clara and Ivans residents. So that would be the preference. So
Would it help to have anything down in the valley or not? That's probably as good as any.
Go to the station.
Oh.
I don't think they're gonna need a bunch of them. With the river flooding's not gonna say go get some sandbags.
Yeah.
It would be local flooding from the rain or anything like that.
yeah, any home issues, please go to the station. That way it keeps our emergency stock ready to rock and roll. So
Did you say they posted it?
I heard they'd close the road to Gunlock, right there at Ed Bowler's where the
Yeah,
overhang
It was
is.
coming over the road there when I came down.
That's
yeah,
fine.
Chief Foltz was up there just before they just had a call now, but it was all closed up. We can get up there with emergency vehicles, of course, but yeah, I'm not sure if there's erosion on the road or not, but
It
last time I heard,
floods over on the top of the road and then you can't tell what it's doing on the bank. So there's potential hazard there.
Mayor, what were the flows this morning?
When they started, they
Yeah,
were,
when
they were at 4 CFS and then they went up to like 700 by about sunlight. And right now they're at 2,500. They've just been going up about 10% an hour.
So when do we get really nervous?
Well, when they get to about 6,000, they're going to be bumping the Gates Lane Bridge. They'll be bumping the top cord on the Gates Lane Bridge. So the water will be above the openings under the bridge. That's when I get a little nervous.
We're at 2,500 right now.
They're at 2,500 right now. The river can take more than that, but Gates starts to, I get really nervous when Gates starts bumping the low cord, because then you've got everything that's floating is bumping the bridge. Fuel tanks, trees, anything that, and you'd be surprised what's laying in the river waiting to come down. At that flow, it'll be hitting the bridge. Chapel will probably take twice the 100-year flood. But there is a pretty good eddy below it. that
Yeah, it's cool.
we may want to look at that eddy, because that eddy's going to drop a bunch of sediment and reduce your capacity. And the beavers, the poor little beavers are almost to Lake Mead. I hope it takes them a couple of years to find their way back up. So I may want to get Lance in the air after this recedes and just fly the city like you did this last run. That video was really helpful. To check the debris, doing it again after a peak lets us look for debris that's come down since that one.
Yeah, he's all into it, so he'd love to do it.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I've got texts from everybody along the river has texted me during this meeting, sent me pictures of what it's doing behind their house and asking if we're on top of it.
So does somebody send you the calculation? Does somebody send you that
I
calculation?
get automatic notifications on the gauge.
Okay,
So I know what the gauge does about every 20 minutes. I get an update on the gauge.
okay.
And then I know where all the trouble spots are just up here. Dustin's got them too. Where we've had problems in the past. They're watching those areas now. There's a little concern down along the Goobers. The water's almost to the Krells. He's got calves in the Krells and he's in Cabo. It's up on the riprap down to Riverfront. It's the problem time now because it's really black out there and it's hard to monitor. But I'll probably run out after the meeting and go check Gates and Chapel and maybe one others. And then we'll hit it again in the morning. Kind of watch the gauge all night and see what it does. If it gets too hairy, I'll be down there looking at it. But I don't see any damage until we're 5,000 or 6,000 at all. Kelly Graphs would be another one to watch. He's gone too. In the morning, check Kelly Graphs. Okay.
Yeah, we were also just to add on that topic, talk with Jason Whipple from the county too. They also have sandbags and stuff they can generate in here, as you probably already know, but inmate crews, he said there's quite a few resources if we need that. So
It's right to the brink of the Sunbrook Golf or Southgate Golf Course, right to the grass right now.
Oh,
So
it's going on to
Yeah, the
that.
Santa Clara is right up to the edge of the grass, so it'll start to spill across the golf course down there pretty quick. That's one of the problem areas on the length of the river is that course. It's designed to flood over. They just have some cleanup to do.
How about the bridge on Dixie Drive?
The bridge is on Dixie Drive. That little bridge at Mathis Park is the best bridge in the county. It works like a toilet. Flow gets up to a certain level and then all of a sudden something happens and it just goes through the bridge. It's kind of fun to watch, but you can watch it suck trees like a 40-foot diameter cottonwood. Went through that thing like a piece of toilet paper in a toilet. It was cool. Blew out like a submarine on the downstream side. So then went downstream and took out a pedestrian bridge. So oh well. But yeah, we'll be back at it in the morning. Cody?
Yeah, I don't have much. We're slowing down. We're starting to fill that. We had 15 permits total. One was a new single family home. We just had 4 townhomes come in today. That's one of the last buildings in Heritage Point. Otherwise, the remaining permits were solar and accessory uses, pools, things of that nature. Just to follow up on the clover patch, on March 6th, that incident that Chief mentioned, we retained North Star with John Graff, and he's got the drywall back together, taped, textured, and probably painted. I haven't been in there. I wasn't able to get in there today, but and he's lapped the outside, so he's doing a good job for us putting that back together. And Jill, is it Jill that owns it? Yeah, Jill. She was a little frustrated, but she's since very appreciative of all staff, including your guys. Those guys in uniform, they always get kudos. But yeah, she pulled me aside, so passing that on to you. And send it down to you guys. Otherwise, our commercial's picking up. We've received applications for the Country Lanes Commons, that shell, as well as the Dutchman cookie manufactured building. So that's coming, and then a lot of interest with other commercial. Nothing in writing yet. So, but yeah, to fill up the Quinchit 2 and possibly or Pad A at Harmon. So otherwise, we've been attending training. Fred was in a training about 4 weeks ago. I was in one a couple weeks ago, and Selena goes next week. So thanks for your support. Keeps our CEUs and keeps us going in the building department. Any questions for me?
How many single family permits since first year?
109.
Single family.
No, single family, 14. 95 townhomes.
There was that since first of June,
That's
First of July?
that's fiscal year.
it's fiscal year. So since first of July, you've issued 15. I mean, since January 1.
January 1, I don't have that in front of me, but it's slim.
That's what I was.
I can probably count it on one hand. Yeah, it's thank goodness the commercial's picking up, and the inventory for single family is following up, as Jim will report. But we have Solace coming on. Desert's Edge is itching to go. I don't think they're starting with their well, that's another townhome product
Townhome.
mainly.
They're starting with 24 townhomes in phase 1. Then phase 2 is the apartments.
But that's and I've stated this before, that's the positive note is we still have a little inventory and more coming online. So if we can sustain not knowing what tomorrow brings, so.
Thank you, Cody. Questions for Cody, council?
I just have one building maintenance thing real quick. I noticed when I walked in today, back here behind the building, there's like an outside air conditioning unit, like a condenser or something, was just getting drenched. And it's because there's a leak in the gutter right above it.
Yeah, there's numerous leaks. That's the best one. The gutter is actually separated. It's a segmented gutter, and as soon as it dries up, which it hasn't, but it needs to be pieced back together and then resealed.
Okay.
I'm aware of that. Thank you.
Okay.
Jim?
Thanks, Mayor. We've got quite a bit going on. Next Thursday night on March 23rd, we have a public hearing for the rezoning at 2276 Arrowhead Trail, the Bart Smith property on the corner there. We just did a general plan amendment last week and had a public hearing with the Planning Commission 2 weeks prior to that. That's the request from the R110 and plan development commercial to the R16. So that public hearing is next Thursday night. That's the smaller item. The biggie that's on the agenda next Thursday night is the Clayton Levin project, Clayton Levitt's proposal, Pioneer Point. The rezoning of that property from R110 single family residential to the planned development residential zone to allow for what he's proposing, the single family homes, multifamily townhomes, and the amenities for the residents or future users of the project. So that public hearing is on next week. We posted the property this week. We've received several calls and some emails. So people are questioning and asking what's going on. And I've taken quite a few of those calls, probably half a dozen today. And then tomorrow, we'll put the QR code up and the packet and report will go out. And I've let people know they're just waiting to see the staff report and the plans that will be available by the end of the day tomorrow, once we put that QR code up. So they're very aware of that. So that's happening next week. We also have 2 items on our Heritage Commission agenda next week. Kind of a fun one for Rylu's Bistro. They're looking to do some covered awnings for outdoor patio dining, covered out front on 50% of that area, the areas where people sit. Similar to Kairos, if you've been to Kairos on the corner of Tabernacle and Main, that kind of use out there will be nice, white, painted in white to match. And then we have Kelly Gates again, who's looking to do an addition to that property on Quail Street. So that item will be discussed. And then, as I was indicating to the mayor earlier today, we have several items on TRC tomorrow. Quite a few projects, things that are in the works, but a lot going on out there. Silverado folks have come in with a commercial plat to do a 4-lot subdivision to subdivide property. because they've been talking to IHC and they want a parcel to put an Instacare on one of the properties and they want to do a purchase. We have Santa Clara, Sycamores at Santa Clara, another phase. One of the ones that's coming in that's been out there for a while. It's interesting. Now they're coming in for the final plat is Santa Clara Valley Homes. That's the Jim Ince project on Victor Street. So that's 8 units, 6 townhomes and 2 single families on that property there. On the cul-de-sac, that would be finished off, and then we'll have a street vacation issue we'll need to discuss. But I've discussed with Matt, and it's will be brought up tomorrow. The street vacation issue does require a public hearing and notice, and that public hearing occurs here at the city council. And the city council needs to decide if we can surplus the property and allow adjacent residents to have it, what that process is. So there's more to come on that. So we do have quite a bit of things in the pipeline. So things coming. So, yeah. Thanks.
Questions for Jim?
Just, I think the new QR code and sign location is.
You like that better?
I love it. It's a great location. Well done. Thanks, Jared.
Dustin's guys got that up on it. Yeah, Jared really wanted it. Dustin's guys changed that up on Thursday.
Well, you were vacationing. We picked a new sign location.
That's great.
I'll take care of it.
Chris? Nothing?
She's ready to go.
Council? Anything? All right. No motion, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.